The October air was crisp as I stepped out of my 12-year-old Toyota Camry at Rosewood Manor, the most exclusive wedding venue in the state. Through the ornate gates, I could see the flurry of activity. Florists arranging centerpieces, staff setting up chairs on the manicured lawn, the string quartet warming up near the gazebo where my daughter would soon say, "I do." My daughter, Emma, 26 years old, brilliant, beautiful, and getting married in 3 hours to a wonderful young man named David, who treated her like she hung the moon. I'd been looking forward to this day since she was little, when she'd stomp around the house in her mother's heels declaring she'd marry a prince. I straightened my tie, not designer, but clean and pressed, and walked toward the entrance. That's when I saw him. Richard Pemberton Aita, my ex-wife's husband of 8 years, standing at the gate like a bouncer at an exclusive club. "Turn around, Michael," he said, not even pretending to be civil. His Yale class ring caught the afternoon sun as he held up a manicured hand. "You're not welcome here." I stopped, genuinely confused. "I'm sorry." "You heard me." He stepped forward, blocking the entrance completely. At 6'3" and built like the ex-lacrosse player he was, Richard clearly thought he was intimidating. "This is a classy event. We have important guests, judges, senators, members of my country club. We don't need you here bringing down the tone." Bringing down the? I almost laughed. "Richard, I'm Emma's father." "Biological father," he corrected, as if that distinction mattered. "I've been her real father for the past 8 years. I'm the one who moved her into the right social circles. I'm the one whose connections got her into Columbia Law. I'm the one paying for this wedding." That last part was particularly amusing, but I kept my expression neutral. "Does Emma know you're doing this?" I asked. "Emma agrees with me," he lied smoothly. "She's just too polite to tell you herself. She doesn't want her special day ruined by you. Look at yourself, Michael. Driving that ancient car, wearing a suit from Men's Warehouse. Do you really think you fit in with the Pemberton crowd?" Behind him, I could see my ex-wife, Patricia, in a stunning mother-of-the-bride dress that probably cost more than most people's monthly mortgage. She was directing the photographer, pretending not to notice her husband bearing me from our daughter's wedding. "I'd like to hear that from Emma herself," I said calmly. Richard's smile was all teeth, no warmth. "She's busy getting ready. Having her hair and makeup done by the team from that salon on Madison Avenue. The one you could never afford to take her to. Just like you could never afford the equestrian lessons, or the European vacations, or the debut at the Pemberton Annual Gala." Each word was carefully chosen to cut, to remind me of all the things I couldn't give Emma after the divorce. What Richard didn't understand was that Emma and I had laughed about those same things over burgers at her favorite hole-in-the-wall diner, where she'd tell me about surviving Richard's society torture sessions. "I'm not leaving," I said simply. "I'm walking my daughter down the aisle." Richard laughed, actually laughed. "No, you're not. I'm walking her down the aisle. We discussed this months ago. It's already in the program. The bride will be escorted by her father, Richard Pemberton II. Has a nice ring to it, doesn't it?" I felt my phone buzz in my pocket but ignored it. "Richard, I don't want to make a scene." "Then don't. Just leave. Quietly. Like you should have done years ago instead of clinging to this fantasy that you still matter in Emma's life. She's a Pemberton now. She's part of our world, not yours." "Our world?" I repeated. "Yes, our world. The world of success, of refinement, of knowing which fork to use and which wine to order. The world where people summer in the Hamptons, not in their backyards with a kiddie pool from Walmart." That kiddie pool reference stung. It was from the last summer Emma had spent with me before Patricia married Richard and moved them into his mansion. Emma and I had spent a whole day setting up that silly pool, having water fights, making memories. She still had photos from that day on her phone. "Tell you what," Richard continued, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "I'll write you a check right now, $20,000. Call it a gift. You can take a nice vacation, maybe finally replace that embarrassment you call a car. All you have to do is leave. Now, don't come back. Let Emma have the father she deserves for her wedding." I studied him for a long moment. Richard Pemberton II, heir to a department store fortune, who'd never worked a day in his life, who thought money could buy him the title of father, who genuinely believed his checkbook made him superior. "No," I said. His face reddened. 50,000. "No, you're being ridiculous. Do you know how many people are here? Do you know who they are? The governor's wife is here, the mayor, 3 federal judges, and you want to walk in there looking like. He gestured at me that. I pulled out my phone. You're right, Richard. I should make some calls. He smirked, finally seeing sense. Yes, call yourself an Uber. Save us both the embarrassment. But I wasn't calling Uber. I scrolled to a contact labeled simply Marcus and hit dial. Mr. Chen. Marcus answered on the first ring. Is everything in place? Small change of plans, I said, watching Richard's smug expression. We're going to need to accelerate the timeline. How quickly can you execute? The venue contract is already in my hand, sir. The catering team is on standby. The band, the flowers, the photographer. Everyone's ready for your word. Give me 5 minutes, I said and hung up. Richard was watching me with amused condescension. Calling for a ride? Good man. Emma will thank you for this, even if she doesn't know it. I made another call. This one to Emma. She answered breathlessly, probably in the middle of hair and makeup. Dad, where are you? You were supposed to be here an hour ago for photos. I'm at the gate, sweetheart. Richard says I'm not welcome. What? I heard a crash, probably her jumping up and knocking something over. He said, Everyt, I'm coming down there right now. No. Stay there. Finish getting ready. I'll handle this. Dad, I swear I didn't know. I specifically told him. I know you did, baby. Don't worry. Your wedding is going to be perfect. I promise. But Dad, trust me. Have I ever let you down? She paused, then said softly, Never. Not once. Then trust me now. I'll see you soon. I hung up and looked back at Richard, who was checking his Rolex impatiently. So, he demanded, are you leaving, or do I need to call security? Oh, you have security, I asked innocently. That's good. They can help everyone leave in an orderly fashion. Leave, he frowned. What are you talking about? I made one more call, this time putting it on speaker. Marcus, execute. Yes, sir. Initiating now. Within seconds, Richard's phone started ringing. Then I heard shouting from inside the venue. The catering manager emerged, looking frantic, followed by several staff members. Mr. Pemberton, the venue manager, a distinguished woman named Helen, came running out. We have a problem. A big problem. What kind of problem? Richard demanded. The contracts. They've all been canceled. The venue, the catering, the bar service, the flowers, the band, everything. As of 5 minutes ago, we've been ordered to cease all services and vacate the premises. Richard's face went from red to purple. That's impossible. I paid for all of this. Cash deposits, signed contracts. Helen looked deeply uncomfortable. Actually, Mr. Pemberton, you didn't. All the contracts are in the name of Chen Holdings LC, and Mr. Chen just canceled everything. Chen Holdings? Richard sputtered. Who the hell is Chen? I raised my hand slightly. Michael Chen. That would be me. The silence that followed was beautiful. Richard's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Behind him, Patricia had come running out, her designer dress swishing. What's happening? She demanded. Why are the caterers packing up? Ask your husband, I suggested. He just told me I wasn't welcome at my daughter's wedding. Patricia's face went white. Richard, you didn't. He's bluffing, Richard insisted. This is some kind of stunt. He can't afford any of this. Helen cleared her throat. Mr. Chen has been our client for 3 years. He's hosted several major corporate events here. The wedding today, every single vendor, every single service, was contracted through his company. The total cost was, she glanced at her tablet, $347,000. All prepaid. 300 and Patricia swayed slightly. $347,000, I confirmed. But who's counting? The important thing is that Richard doesn't think I'm classy enough to attend. So if I can't attend, neither can my money. By now, the exodus had begun in earnest. The string quartet was packing up their instruments. Florists were carefully removing centerpieces. The catering trucks were being loaded. Guests who'd started arriving early were milling about in confusion. You can't do this, Richard shouted. The wedding is in 2 hours. Actually, I can, I said calmly. Every contract has a clause allowing the paying party to cancel for any reason with no liability. Airtight. Ironclad. I should know, I wrote them. But I gave Emma a credit card for wedding expenses, Patricia said weakly. Yes, she used it to buy her dress. Everything else she asked me to handle. Said she wanted to use Dad's vendor connections to get better prices. I smiled. She's always been smart with money. Wonder where she got that from. That's when Emma appeared, running in her wedding dress, her hair half done, tears streaming down her face. Dad, what's happening? Everyone's leaving. She started to run to me, but Richard grabbed her arm. Emma, your father is ruining your wedding out of spite. She jerked away from him. Don't touch me. Dad, what's going on? Richard decided I wasn't welcome at your wedding. I explained. Said I wasn't classy enough. That I'd embarrass you in front of the Pemberton crowd. Emma's face transformed from confusion to fury. He was gay. I was protecting you, Richard insisted. You don't need him here. I'm your father now. Emma laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. You're not my father. You're the man my mother married. My father is the one who taught me to ride a bike, who stayed up all night with me when I had nightmares, who worked 3 jobs to pay for my dance lessons, who never missed a single recital, even when it meant driving 4 hours after a 12-hour shift. Emma, be reasonable. Patricia interjected. Richard was just trying to what? Emma snapped. To erase my father. To pretend he doesn't exist. Did you know about this, Mom? Patricia's silence was answer enough. Emma turned back to me. Dad, please, don't cancel everything. This isn't about them. David's family is here. Our friends. Please. I walked over and took her hands. Sweetheart, do you really think I'd ruin your wedding? Everything's moving to Plan B. Plan B. I smiled. The Riverside Pavilion, you know, where you actually wanted to get married before Richard insisted on Rosewood Manor. Her eyes widened, but they were booked. They had a last-minute cancellation. Lucky, right? All the vendors are already en route. Same flowers, same food, same everything. Just a different location. One where every guest is actually welcome. You planned this? She threw her arms around me, not caring about her hair or makeup. You knew this might happen. I've known Richard for 8 years, I said, hugging her back. I always have contingency plans. This is kidnapping, Richard shouted. Or fraud. Or something. I'll sue. For what? I asked. For moving my daughter's wedding that I'm paying for to a venue where I'm actually allowed to attend. Good luck with that. David, my soon-to-be son-in-law, appeared with his groomsmen. Mr. Chin, is everything okay? Just a venue change, I told him. Hope you don't mind. He grinned. Are you kidding? Emma's been talking about the Riverside Pavilion forever. This is perfect. The next hour was controlled chaos. Guests were redirected. The wedding party was shuttled to the new venue. Everything that had taken months to plan was seamlessly relocated in record time. Richard and Patricia stood frozen at the gates of Rosewood Manor, watching their perfect society wedding disappear piece by piece. You'll regret this, Richard finally said. I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of man you really are. They already know, I said. I'm the kind of man who keeps his promises to his daughter. The kind who doesn't need to buy love with country club memberships and fancy cars. The kind who shows up every time, no matter what. As I turned to leave, Patricia called out, Michael, wait. I paused but didn't turn around. The equestrian lessons, she said quietly. The European vacations. The Columbia connections. Did you? The riding instructor is an old client. The European vacation was me flying Emma to visit my brother in London. He works at the embassy. And Columbia, she got in on her 179 LSAT score and stellar GPA. Though I did write her a recommendation letter. Does that count as a connection? I could hear Patricia crying, but I didn't look back. I had a wedding to get to. The Riverside Pavilion was spectacular. Overlooking the water, surrounded by trees in full autumn colors, it was the fairy tale setting Emma had originally dreamed of. As guests arrived, I heard more than one comment about how much better this venue was, how much more Emma it felt. I found Emma in the bridal suite, surrounded by her bridesmaids, all of them laughing and crying at the same time. Dad, she said, fresh tears starting. Thank you. For everything. Not just today, but everything. Always, baby girl. Always. Richard and Mom. They'll come if they want to. The invitation stands. This is your day, not mine. She nodded, then smiled mischievously. So, Chen Holdings LC. Since when are you a corporate mogul? I laughed. Since about 10 years ago. Turns out all those side consulting gigs added up. I'm not Pemberton rich, but I do okay. Okay, Dad, you just dropped $250,000 on my wedding. Worth every penny to see you happy. Besides, what else was I going to spend it on? A fancier car. We both looked out the window at my 12-year-old Camry in the parking lot and burst out laughing. Never change, Dad, she said. Promise me you'll never change. I promise. The ceremony was perfect. Patricia showed up halfway through, alone, slipping quietly into a back row. Richard was nowhere to be seen. When it came time for the father-daughter dance, Emma had chosen Isn't She Lovely by Stevie Wonder, the song I used to sing to her when she was little. As we danced, she whispered, "Did you really write all those vendor contracts yourself?" Every single one. With that exact cancellation clause. You knew this would happen. I hoped it wouldn't, but I've learned to be prepared. Your mother married him for security, for status. I couldn't compete with that. But I could make sure that when it really mattered, money wouldn't be the thing that kept me from being there for you. You've always been there for me. And I always will be. Later during the reception, I found Patricia sitting alone at a table, nursing a glass of wine. He left me, she said without preamble. Richard, he said if I stayed for the wedding, we were done. 8 years of marriage, and he gave me an ultimatum over this. I sat down beside her. I'm sorry. She laughed bitterly. No, you're not. You're right, I'm not. But I am sorry you're hurting. I chose money over you, she said quietly. I chose status and security and look where it got me. Married to a man who tried to erase my daughter's father because he didn't like his car. You chose what you thought was best at the time. Did I, or did I choose what was easiest? She looked at me. You've done well for yourself. Chen Holdings. I started consulting after the divorce. Needed the extra income for Emma's expenses. One client became 2, became 10. Eventually, I incorporated. It's nothing compared to Pemberton money. But it's honest money, she finished. Earned, not inherited. That's worth more. We sat in comfortable silence, watching Emma and David dance with their friends. She's happy, Patricia said. Yes, she is. Thanks to you, you saved her wedding. I just moved it. Same wedding, better venue. Patricia smiled sadly. You know what I mean. You could have really ruined it. Cancelled everything out of spite. Made Richard and me look like fools in front of everyone. That would have hurt Emma. Nothing is worth that. You're a good man, Michael Chen. I'm sorry I forgot that. I stood up. Take care, Patricia. As I walked away, she called out, Michael? That kiddie pool summer, it was the happiest I ever saw her. Happier than any country club pool ever made her. I smiled and kept walking. The rest of the reception was a blur of joy. Speeches were made, tears were shed, and promises for the future were exchanged. Marcus, my assistant and the orchestrator of the great venue switch, found me during a quiet moment. The final tally, Mr. Chen, he said, handing me a tablet. The Rosewood cancellation, the Riverside booking, all the vendor relocations, the transportation coordination, total cost including the original wedding, $426,000. Worth it, I said without hesitation. Richard Pemberton is telling anyone who'll listen that you're a fraud and a manipulator. Let him. The people who matter know the truth. Speaking of which, Marcus smiled, Judge Patterson wants to discuss potentially hiring your firm for his daughter's wedding next spring. Says anyone who can pull off what you did today is someone he wants planning his events. I laughed. Tell him I'll think about it, but first, I want to enjoy the rest of my daughter's wedding. As the evening wound down, Emma found me on the pavilion's deck looking out over the water. Hiding from the party, she asked, joining me. Just taking a moment. You should be with your guests. They can wait. I wanted to talk to my dad. She leaned against my shoulder. Thank you, not just for saving the wedding, but for showing me something important. What's that? That love isn't about what you can buy someone. It's about showing up, being there, fighting for them when they need it. She paused. Richard never understood that. He thought his money made him my father. But you can't buy that title. You earn it. One bedtime story, one school play, one midnight ice cream run at a time. When did you get so wise? I had a good teacher. She kissed my cheek. I love you, Dad. Love you too, baby girl. As she went back to the party, I thought about the day's events. Richard was probably at his country club right now, drowning his wounded pride in expensive scotch, telling anyone who'd listen about how he'd been wronged. Patricia would go back to the mansion, maybe start divorce proceedings, maybe try to salvage things. Either way, that wasn't my concern anymore. What mattered was that my daughter had gotten the wedding she deserved, surrounded by people who genuinely loved her, not those who were there to network or be seen. Sometimes the best gift a father can give his daughter isn't walking her down the aisle in a cathedral or paying for a society wedding. Sometimes it's showing her that real love doesn't come with conditions or price tags. It just shows up, no matter what, even if it means moving heaven and earth, or at least a wedding venue, to be there. As I headed back to the party, I passed my trusty old Camry in the parking lot. Maybe it was time for an upgrade. Or maybe not. After all, it had gotten me here. To this moment, to this joy. And that made it priceless. The next morning, I woke to my phone buzzing with texts and emails. The local society blogger had somehow gotten the whole story and ran with the headline, "Father of the bride moves mountains and venues for daughter's dream wedding." But the message that mattered most was from Emma, sent from the airport as she and David left for their honeymoon. "Dad, you've always been my hero. Yesterday you showed the world why. Love you to the moon and back." I smiled, set the phone aside, and went to make coffee. Chen Holdings had 3 events to plan this week, and none of them were as important as yesterday. But I give them the same attention, the same care, because that's what you do. You show up. You do the work. You keep your promises, even if someone tries to stop you at the gate, especially then.
The call came on a Tuesday evening, just as I was wrapping up another 14-hour workday. My phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number, but the area code was painfully familiar. I almost didn't answer. "Quinn speaking." Silence crackled through the line, then, "Quinn, it's Trey." My hand froze on the stack of briefs I'd been organizing. 5 years of carefully constructed walls threatened to crumble at the sound of his voice. "I'm Quinn Nichols, and until that moment, I thought I'd finally moved past the woman who lost everything to the man on the other end of this call." "I need your help," he said, his voice rough with desperation. "Please," I laughed, sharp and bitter. "You've got some nerve." "I know, but you're the best family lawyer in the state now, and—" He paused. "Marley's trying to take my kids." Marley, my former best friend, the woman he left me for 3 weeks after I lost our baby, the perfect pair who destroyed my life and built their own on its ashes. "Find another lawyer," I said, reaching to end the call. "Wait," his voice cracked. "Just meet with me. 1 meeting. Please, Quinn." A knock at my office door saved me from responding. Valeria, my law partner, stuck her head in. "Still here? The Thompson deposition's at 8 tomorrow." I held up one finger, then spoke into the phone. "Tomorrow, 9 a.m., my office, don't be late." I hung up before he could respond. "Was that who I think it was?" Valeria asked, settling into the chair across from my desk. I nodded, my hands shaking as I straightened papers that didn't need straightening. "The universe has a sick sense of humor. Want to talk about it?" "Not really." I stood, grabbing my coat, but I could use a drink. 20 minutes later, we sat in our usual corner booth at O'Malley's. Valeria waited until the waitress delivered our wines before leaning forward. "Spill. Remember the case that made me switch to family law?" I took a long sip of Cabernet. "The woman whose husband left her for her best friend while she was still grieving a miscarriage. That was you?" Valeria's eyes widened. "I always thought—" "Damn, Quinn." "Yeah." I traced the rim of my glass. "That's why I left corporate law, threw myself into women's advocacy instead, needed something meaningful after everything." "And now he wants your help?" "Against Marley." I couldn't help but smile, though it felt more like baring teeth. "Karma's a fascinating thing, isn't it?" Valeria studied me carefully. "You're not actually considering it?" Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with a text from my sister Zoe. "Just saw Trey's name trending. You might want to check the news." I pulled up the local news site, and there it was. Tech CEO Trey Wheeler steps down amid scandal. The article detailed allegations of financial misconduct, with Marley quoted extensively about her husband's betrayal of trust. Well, well, Valeria murmured, reading over my shoulder. Looks like someone's world is imploding. Good, I said, but the word felt hollow. 5 years ago, I would have celebrated this. Now, I should call Bethany. Your mentor? Why? Because tomorrow morning, I'm going to sit across from the man who broke me, and I need to know if I can represent him without destroying what's left of my soul. I drained my wine. Or, if I should, Valeria grabbed my hand. Quinn, listen to me. You've built something amazing here. Your cases have changed lives. Don't let him drag you back into that darkness. Maybe that's exactly why I should take it. I met her concerned gaze. Who better to ensure justice is served than someone who knows exactly what they're capable of? My phone buzzed again. Another text from Zoe. Whatever you're thinking, call me first. Remember what you always tell your clients. Revenge might feel good, but justice feels better. I stared at the message, remembering all the women I'd helped over the years. The ones who'd lost everything, just like me. The ones who'd found their strength again, just like me. You know what the worst part is? I said finally. Part of me still wants to help him. The part that remembers who he was before everything. That's because you're a good person, Valeria said. But good people can make dangerous opponents when pushed too far. I thought about the meeting tomorrow, about facing Trey across my desk, about looking into the eyes that once held my whole world and seeing desperation instead of love. Order another round, I told Valeria. I need to figure out if I'm going to be his salvation or his reckoning. She signaled the waitress, then turned back to me with a knowing look. Why do I have a feeling you're going to be both? I didn't answer. I was too busy planning how to turn this unexpected reunion into something that would serve justice. Real justice, for everyone involved, including me. 9 o'clock sharp, and my assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. Ms. Nichols, Mr. Wheeler is here. I took a deep breath, straightened my blazer, and pressed the button. Send him in. The man who walked through my door wasn't the polished CEO I'd seen in news photos. His designer suit hung loose on his frame, dark circles shadowed his eyes, and his usually perfect hair needed a trim. Good. Quinn, he said, stopping just inside the doorway. Thank you for... Sit down, I cut him off, gesturing to the chair across from my desk. You have 30 minutes. He sat, hands fidgeting with his wedding ring, a different one than the one I'd placed on his finger 8 years ago. I don't know where to start. Try the truth. For once. His flinch was satisfying. I deserve that. I deserve worse. He ran a hand through his hair. Marley's trying to take everything. The kids, the house, my company shares. I saw the news. Financial misconduct? It's all lies. His voice cracked. She set me up. Used my login credentials to make unauthorized transfers, deleted the evidence, then reported me to the board. I can't prove it was her, but... And now she wants full custody of your children? He nodded, pulling out his phone. Look. He slid it across the desk, showing me a photo of 2 children, a boy around 4 and a girl, maybe 2. Tommy and Sarah. She's threatening to tell the judge I'm unstable, that I'm a danger to them. She's already convinced the board I'm a criminal. I studied the photo longer than necessary, fighting the twist in my gut. Those could have been our children. Why me? I asked finally. There are plenty of good family lawyers in this city. Because you're the best, because you know her, the real her. He leaned forward. And because you're the only one who might understand what she's capable of. Careful, I warned. That's your wife you're talking about. Soon-to-be ex-wife. He laughed bitterly. Karma, right? I left you for her, and now... Stop. I stood up, walking to the window. This isn't about us. Isn't it? His voice was closer now. He'd stood too. Quinn, I know I hurt you. What I did was unforgivable. But these are my kids. I turned to face him. And what makes you think I won't hurt you right back? Because I know you. Despite everything, you believe in justice. Real justice. He stepped closer. And because you've spent the last 5 years helping people like me, parents fighting to keep their children. Parents like you? My laugh was harsh. You mean parents who destroyed their families? Who betrayed everyone who loved them? Parents who made mistakes, he corrected quietly. Parents who would do anything to protect their children. Before I could respond, my door opened and Valeria walked in. Perfect timing. We'd planned this interruption. Sorry to interrupt, she said, not sounding sorry at all. Quinn, the Martinez hearing got moved up. We need to review the strategy. Give me 5 minutes, I told her, then turned back to Trey. Show me the custody filing. He pulled a thick envelope from his briefcase, hands shaking slightly as he handed it over. I skimmed the documents, my jaw tightening at Marley's allegations. Emotional abuse, financial manipulation, paranoid behavior. She's going for the jugular, I murmured. Will you help me? His voice was barely a whisper. I looked up, meeting his desperate gaze. I'll review the case, that's all I'm promising right now. Thank you. He stood, reaching for his briefcase. Quinn, Don't. I held up a hand. If I take this case, we keep things strictly professional. No apologies, no explanations, no past. Just the facts and the law. Understood? He nodded. When will you decide? I'll call you tomorrow. I pressed the intercom. Lisa, please show Mr. Wheeler out. After he left, Valeria closed the door and raised an eyebrow. Well? I held up the custody filing. Read this. Tell me what you think. She took the papers, scanning quickly. Her eyes widened. These allegations, they're almost identical to what happened with us, I finished. Right down to the gaslighting accusations. You think she's using your past as a template? I think Marley hasn't changed. I sat back down, mind racing. She's still the same manipulative person who helped destroy my marriage, only now she's doing it to him. So, you're taking the case? I pulled out my phone, pulling up the photo of Tommy and Sarah. Those kids don't deserve to be pawns in their mother's game. I looked up at Valeria. Call Bethany. Tell her I need her to co-counsel. If we're doing this, we're doing it right. And Trey? Trey's just a client. I started typing an email to my investigator. But Marley? She's about to learn why they call me the Ice Queen of Family Court. Valeria smiled. Now that's the Quinn I know. I returned her smile, but inside, my heart was racing. Tomorrow, I'd call Trey and accept his case. And then the real battle would begin. You're playing with fire, Bethany said, tossing the case file onto her mahogany desk. We were in her corner office, the city skyline glittering behind her. Taking your ex-husband's case against your former best friend? The media will have a field day. Let them. I crossed my legs, projecting more confidence than I felt. It might actually help us. How so? Because the moment this hits the news, every woman Marley has ever wronged will come forward. I pulled out my phone, showing Bethany the emails I'd received since word got out. 3 already have. Bethany leaned forward, reading. Her eyebrows shot up. These are serious allegations. And familiar ones. I swiped to the next email. She has a pattern. Befriend, manipulate, destroy, profit. She did it to me, she's doing it to Trey, and according to these women, she's done it before. A knock at the door interrupted us. Valeria entered, waving a tablet. You need to see this. She pulled up a video, Marley on a morning show, tears streaming down her perfectly made-up face. I'm just so worried about the children, she sobbed. When I discovered the financial irregularities, I had to act. But now he's hired his ex-wife as his lawyer, and I fear what they might do. Turn it off, I snapped. She's playing the victim card perfectly, Bethany mused, and painting you as the vengeful ex. My phone buzzed, Zoe calling. Hey, sis. Have you seen it? She didn't wait for an answer. Quinn, this is exactly what she wants. She's baiting you. I know. I put the phone on speaker. But she made a mistake. What's that? She mentioned the kids. I smiled grimly. Which means I can subpoena their school records, medical records, everything, including the incident report from Tommy's preschool last month. Valeria's head snapped up. What incident report? The one where Tommy's teacher documented bruises and emotional distress after returning from a weekend with Marley. I pulled out another file. My investigator found it this morning. Bethany whistled low. That's going to hurt her case. Quinn, Zoe's voice was worried. Be careful. Remember what happened last time someone threatened Marley's perfect image? I did remember. The photos she'd doctored, the rumors she'd spread, the carefully orchestrated character assassination that had left me looking like the unstable one. Not this time, I said firmly. This time I have proof. A text message popped up on my phone from Trey. Marley just served me with an emergency custody motion, hearing tomorrow at 9. She's moving fast, Bethany observed, because she knows we're gathering evidence. I stood up, smoothing my skirt. Valeria, prep the witness list. Bethany, I need you to handle the financial angle. Follow those transfers. Find the proof it was her. Zoe, can you... Already on it, my sister interrupted. I'm reaching out to my social media contacts. If there are more victims, we'll find them. After ending the call, I turned to Bethany. You haven't asked why I'm really doing this. Don't need to. She stood, coming around her desk. 5 years ago, you walked into my office, barely holding yourself together, and asked me to mentor you in family law. Said you wanted to help people who'd been betrayed like you had. And now I'm helping the man who betrayed me. No. She put a hand on my shoulder. You're helping his children, and exposing a woman who's hurt too many people. My phone buzzed again. An email from Marley's attorney, Samir. I read it aloud. Consider this a professional courtesy. My client has documentation of your past mental health struggles following your miscarriage. Drop this case, or it becomes public record. Valeria swore. Bethany's face hardened, but I felt oddly calm. Forward that to Ethics Council, I told Valeria, and draft a response. Tell him if he wants to play dirty, I have 5 years of text messages from when his client was my best friend, including the ones where she detailed her plans to seduce my husband. You kept those? Bethany asked. I kept everything. I gathered my files. I just never had a reason to use them before. The press will be at the hearing tomorrow, Valeria warned. Good. I headed for the door. Because I have something to say to them. Quinn, Bethany's voice stopped me. What are you planning? I turned back. Remember what you taught me? Sometimes the best defense is a strong offense. And sometimes, she countered, it's knowing when to show mercy. Mercy? I laughed. Like the mercy Marley showed me when I was grieving my baby? Like the mercy she's showing those kids? Just remember, Bethany said softly, revenge and justice aren't always the same thing. I nodded, but as I walked out, I couldn't help thinking they might be this time. Because tomorrow, in that courtroom, Marley would learn what happens when you underestimate someone who has nothing left to lose and everything to prove. The courthouse steps were crowded with reporters when I arrived. Marley had already made her entrance, playing the devastated mother perfectly in a conservative blue dress and pearls. I adjusted my grip on my briefcase and started up the stairs. Ms. Nichols, is it true you're representing your ex-husband? How do you respond to allegations of a vendetta? What about the conflict of interest? I stopped, turning to face the cameras. I'll make one statement. This case isn't about me, my ex-husband, or his current wife. It's about 2 children who deserve to have their best interests represented without bias or manipulation. That's what I intend to do. Inside, Trey waited by the courtroom doors, looking worse than yesterday. They're not letting me see the kids, he whispered as I approached. Marley's claiming I'm a flight risk. Did you try to contact them? Just Tommy's teacher. I wanted to make sure he was okay after... He swallowed hard. After what happened last weekend. Tell me everything, I said, leading him to a quiet corner. Tommy had a meltdown at drop-off. Said he didn't want to go with her. When I tried to calm him down, Marley started recording, saying I was emotionally manipulating him. His hands shook. Then yesterday, Sarah's daycare called her about bruises on Sarah's arms. She blamed me. Before I could respond, Samir approached, his expensive suit matching his shark-like smile. Quinn, always a pleasure, though I must say this is an interesting career choice. Save it, I cut him off. Your emergency motion is baseless and you know it. Is it? He pulled out his phone. I have video of Mr. Wheeler physically restraining his son during a custody exchange. Quite disturbing footage. You mean the video of a father comforting his distraught child? I smiled back. The same video where your client can be heard threatening to make daddy pay? Please submit it. The judge should see everything. His smile faltered slightly. We have other evidence. Of course you do. Just like you had evidence 5 years ago. I stepped closer. How's your daughter, Samir? Still at Brighton Academy? Same school as Tommy, right? He stiffened. Are you threatening? Not at all. Just wondering if she's mentioned the incident last month. The one where Tommy came to school with bruises after a weekend with his mother. The one the school reported to CPS. The courtroom doors opened before he could respond. Inside, Marley sat at the plaintiff's table, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. She didn't look at me as we passed. Judge Martinez entered, and we all rose. Be seated, she said, reviewing the file. This is an emergency motion for temporary full custody, based on allegations of emotional abuse and financial misconduct. Ms. Nichols, your response? I stood. Your Honor, this motion is nothing but a tactical maneuver designed to prejudice my client before the actual custody hearing. We have evidence that the plaintiff herself is the source of both the financial irregularities and the children's emotional distress. Objection! Samir jumped up. Counsel is making unsubstantiated accusations. If I may, I held up a flash drive. We have documentation of unauthorized transfers made from Mr. Wheeler's accounts using Mrs. Wheeler's IP address. We also have testimony from the children's teachers about concerning behavior and statements made by both children after visits with their mother. Judge Martinez frowned. Mr. Rodriguez, did you receive these documents? No, Your Honor, because they don't exist. This is a desperate attempt by counsel to protect her ex-husband. Actually, I interrupted, pulling out another file. I'd like to address that. Your Honor, I move to submit these text messages as evidence of the plaintiff's pattern of manipulation and false allegations. Marley's head snapped up, her eyes meeting mine for the first time. I saw the moment she realized which messages I meant. Your Honor, Samir protested, any personal communications between Ms. Nichols and my client from years ago are irrelevant. They're extremely relevant, I countered, as they establish a pattern of behavior that directly relates to the current allegations, including Mrs. Wheeler's documented history of fabricating evidence to achieve her goals. The judge held up her hand. I've heard enough. This emergency motion is denied. However, she fixed me with a stern look. Ms. Nichols, while there's no technical conflict of interest here, I'm concerned about the personal history involved. Your Honor, I said quietly, I understand the concern, but I also understand these children's situation better than most. I've seen firsthand what Mrs. Wheeler is capable of. These kids need someone who can't be manipulated or intimidated into backing down. Judge Martinez studied me for a long moment, then nodded. Very well. Regular custody hearing remains scheduled for next week. We're adjourned. As people filed out, Marley brushed past me, whispering, You'll regret this. I caught her arm. No, Marley, you will, because this time I'm ready for you. She yanked away, but I saw the flash of fear in her eyes. Good, she should be afraid, because I had only shown her the tip of the iceberg. And the rest? That would come out in court. Tommy, can you tell me about what happened at school last month? I kept my voice gentle, watching the 4-year-old boy push a toy car across the table in the courthouse interview room. Mommy said not to talk about it, he mumbled, not meeting my eyes. It's okay, the court-appointed child advocate assured him. You can tell Ms. Quinn anything. Tommy glanced at the door, then leaned closer to me. I got in trouble because I couldn't sit still. My arms hurt. Why did your arms hurt? Before he could answer, the door burst open. Marley stormed in, Samir right behind her. This interview is over, she snapped, reaching for Tommy. You had no right. I had every right, I stood, blocking her path. This is a court-ordered evaluation. With his father's lawyer, please, she turned to the advocate. She's biased. She's trying to poison my son against me. Mrs. Wheeler, the advocate said firmly, This is a supervised interview. If you interrupt again, I'll have to report it to the judge. Marley's perfect mask slipped for just a second, revealing something ugly underneath. She smoothed her expression quickly, but I'd seen it. So had Tommy, who pressed himself against my leg. Fine. She straightened her designer jacket. But my attorney stays. Of course, I said smoothly. He can witness Tommy telling us about the bruises. Samir touched Marley's arm. Perhaps we should... No. She knelt by Tommy. Sweetie, remember what we talked about? About keeping our special secrets? Mrs. Wheeler, the advocate stood. You cannot coach the witness. I pulled out my phone, hitting record. Please repeat what you just said to your son. Turn that off, Samir demanded. Make me. A commotion outside saved us from further argument. Zoe burst in, waving a tablet. Quinn, you need to see this. Now. I followed her into the hallway, where she showed me a social media post. A woman named Rachel had gone viral describing her experience working as Marley's personal assistant 2 years ago. She claims Marley made her falsify documents, Zoe explained. Bank statements, emails, everything. Says she has proof. Find her, I said. Get her in front of a judge. Already done. She's willing to testify. Zoe hesitated. But Quinn, she also mentioned something else, about Marley having an affair. With who? Samir. I felt the pieces click into place. The aggressive legal strategy, the convenient evidence, the way they worked together so smoothly. Get me everything you can on both of them, I told Zoe. Bank records, hotel receipts, anything. Back in the interview room, Marley was whispering intensely to Samir. They both looked up when I entered, and I couldn't help but notice how close they were standing. Interview's over, I announced. But don't worry, we got enough. This is harassment, Marley hissed. I'll file a complaint with the Bar Association. Go ahead, I smiled. While you're at it, explain why your attorney's credit card paid for a room at the Marina Hotel last weekend. The same weekend you told Trey you were visiting your sister. The color drained from both their faces. Samir recovered first. That's a baseless accusation. Is it? Because Rachel has some interesting things to say about your professional relationship. Marley grabbed her purse. Come on, Tommy. Actually, the advocate interjected, given what's transpired here, I'm recommending Tommy stay with his father pending our next hearing. You can't do that. She can, I said, and she will. Unless you'd like to explain to the judge why you were coaching your son to keep secrets? Marley's face contorted with rage. You think you're so clever, don't you? Using my past mistakes against me? No, Marley, I'm using your present mistakes against you. I stepped closer. The difference is, this time I have proof. She grabbed my arm, nails digging in. I destroyed you once. I can do it again. Mrs. Wheeler, the advocate warned, remove your hand or I'll call security. Marley let go, but her eyes promised violence. This isn't over. You're right, I agreed. It's just beginning. After they left, Zoe hugged me. You okay? I watched Tommy leave with the advocate, heading to meet Trey. The little boy looked back at me and gave a tiny wave. I'm fine, I said. But we need to move fast. Get that witness ready. And Zoe? Yeah? Tell Bethany to pull the security footage from this interview. I want the judge to see exactly how Marley acts when she thinks no one's watching. Already on it. Zoe squeezed my hand. You're going to win this. It's not about winning anymore. I gathered my files, thinking of Tommy's frightened eyes and Marley's threats. It's about making sure she can never hurt anyone else again. But as I left the courthouse, I couldn't shake the feeling that Marley had one more card to play, and whatever it was, it would be devastating. The email arrived at midnight, no subject line, just an attachment. The sender was anonymous, but I knew exactly who it was from. I called Valeria immediately. Check your inbox, I'm forwarding something. A moment later, holy shit, is this real? Looks like it. I stared at the photo on my screen. Me, 5 years ago, in the parking lot of a mental health clinic. She must have had someone following me back then. Quinn, this could destroy your reputation. The timestamp. This was 2 days before you took the bar exam. when I was supposedly too unstable to function. I laughed bitterly. She's going to leak it to the press. My doorbell rang, making me jump. Through the peephole, I saw Zoe holding up a bottle of wine. I have to go, I told Valeria. Meeting tomorrow? First thing? I opened the door for my sister, who took one look at my face and said, "What did she do now?" I showed her the email while pouring us both generous glasses of wine. Zoe's expression darkened as she read. That manipulative bit. She stopped mid-word as her phone buzzed. Wait, Rachel just sent me something. You need to see this. She pulled up a video on her phone. It showed Marley in an office arguing with someone off camera. Where did this come from? Rachel secretly recorded it when she worked for Marley. Watch. In the video, Marley was furious. I don't care what it takes, she snarled. Doctor the documents. Make it look like he's embezzling. I want him ruined. That's about Trey, I breathed. This proves she set him up. Keep watching, Marley continued. Once the board forces him out, I'll get primary custody. Then we can finally be together. The camera shifted, revealing Samir stepping into frame. Got you, I whispered. My phone rang. Trey. Quinn, someone broke into my house. I sat up straight. Are you okay? The kids? We're fine. We were at my parents', but they took my laptop and some files, the ones with the original financial records. Call the police, I ordered. I'm on my way. 20 minutes later, I stood in Trey's ransacked home office while police photographed the scene. Zoe had come with me and was now helping Trey calm the kids upstairs. This was professional, the detective said, pointing out the clean cuts on the window lock. They knew exactly what they were looking for. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Back off, or the photos go public. Your career won't survive the scandal. I showed it to the detective. Add this to the report. It's connected. Ms. Nichols? A young officer called from the hallway. We found something. He led us to the kitchen, where a small recording device was taped under the sink. Place has been bugged. Check everywhere, the detective ordered. Ms. Nichols, given the circumstances, you might want to sweep your office too. I was already texting Bethany when Zoe came downstairs. Kids are asleep. Trey's with them. She lowered her voice. Quinn, Sarah said something about Uncle Sam coming to visit Mommy when Daddy's not home. Uncle Sam? The detective looked up. Samir Rodriguez? Her attorney, I confirmed, and apparently much more. I'll need statements from both children. Through proper channels, I insisted. They've been through enough trauma. Back in the office, Trey was going through his remaining files. The backup drive is gone too. Without those records, we don't need them anymore. I showed him Rachel's video. We have this instead. He watched, his face hardening. She set me up, all of it. The company, the kids, everything. It was all a setup. Mr. Wheeler? The detective returned. We found 3 more listening devices. Based on the model, they've been here at least 6 months. 6 months, Trey repeated. That's when I first suspected the financial irregularities. My phone buzzed again. Another anonymous email. This time, more photos. Me outside my therapist's office. At a grief support group. Private moments from my darkest days, all documented. She's getting desperate, Zoe observed. Good. I started typing a response. Because so am I. What are you going to do? I hit send, then showed them my reply. Release whatever you want. I'm not ashamed of getting help after what you did. But remember, the truth always comes out. And I have so much more truth to share. Quinn, Trey said quietly, you don't have to risk everything for us. I'm not doing it for you. I watched the police bag evidence, thinking of Tommy's bruises and Sarah's fear. I'm doing it because someone needs to stop her, and because 5 years ago I wasn't strong enough to fight back, but I am now. My phone lit up with Marley's response. Tomorrow, 8 a.m., the cafe where we used to meet. Come alone. I showed it to the detective, who immediately said, We'll wire you. No, I grabbed my coat. She'll be watching, but don't worry, I'll be recording everything. Because this time, when Marley tried to destroy someone's life, she'd find her target ready and waiting, and I had nothing left to lose. The cafe looked exactly the same as it had 5 years ago, when Marley and I would meet for our weekly coffee dates. Back when I thought she was my best friend. Back before she destroyed my life. She sat at our old table, stirring her latte. Same perfect makeup, same expensive highlights, same calculated smile when she saw me. "Quinn, you came alone?" As requested. I sat down, declining the waitress's offer of coffee. "Let's skip the small talk." "Always so direct," she sighed. "That's your problem, you know. No subtlety. Unlike you, breaking into Trey's house, bugging his office, following me 5 years ago, that kind of subtlety." Her smile didn't waver. "I have no idea what you're talking about." "Really? Should we call Samir and ask him?" I pulled out my phone, showing her the cafe's security camera feed streaming live to my screen. "Or should we ask the detective watching from across the street?" Finally, the smile cracked. "You stupid bitch, you think you're so clever?" "No, Marley, I think I'm done playing games." I leaned forward. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to drop the custody case, confess to the financial fraud, leave Trey's kids alone." She laughed. "Or what? You'll release that video of me and Samir?" "Go ahead. I'll just claim it's doctored, like everything else." "Everything else? Like the evidence you planted to frame Trey?" "Prove it." Her eyes glittered. "Oh, wait, you can't, because those records are gone. Actually," I pulled out a USB drive. "Rachel kept copies. Of everything. Including your emails planning the whole thing." The color drained from her face. "She wouldn't dare." "She already has. She's giving her statement to the DA right now." I checked my watch. "Along with 3 other former employees you've threatened or blackmailed." Marley's hand shook as she reached for her coffee. "I'll deny it all. It's my word against theirs." "And the kids? What about Tommy's bruises? Sarah's Uncle Sam visits?" "You bitch," she hissed. "You turned them against me." "No, you did that yourself." I stood up. "It's over, Marley. Walk away now, or I'll make sure everyone knows exactly who you are." She grabbed my wrist. "I'll release those photos. Everyone will know you had a breakdown. No one will trust you to practice law again." "Go ahead." I pulled free. "Because I've already released them myself." "What?" I showed her my phone again, this time displaying my firm's website. There, in a new blog post, was my story. The miscarriage, the betrayal, the therapy, the recovery, everything. "You see," I said quietly, "you can't shame someone who's not ashamed. You can't threaten someone who's already faced their worst fears." "You're bluffing," she whispered, but I saw the panic in her eyes. "Check your phone." She did. Her face went white as messages started pouring in. The story was already going viral. "Here's the deal," I continued. "Sign these papers." I placed a folder on the table. "Full custody to Trey, a confession about the financial fraud, a restraining order keeping you away from the kids. You can't, or I release everything else. The videos, the emails, the testimony from your former employees, everything." "You'd destroy my life?" Her voice cracked. "After all we meant to each other? Like you destroyed mine?" I stood up. "The difference is I'm giving you a choice, more than you ever gave me." She stared at the papers for a long moment. Then, with shaking hands, she reached for a pen. "I want to see my kids," she whispered. "That's up to the court, and their therapist." I watched her sign. "But first, you need help, Marley. Real help." She looked up at me, and for a moment I saw something real in her eyes. Fear, maybe even regret. "What happens now?" "Now?" I gathered the signed papers. "Now you leave, move away, start over. But if you ever come near those kids again—" "You'll destroy me," she finished. "No." I shook my head. "You've already done that yourself." As I walked out, the detective met me at the door. "We got it all on camera. The DA's ready to move on the fraud charges." "Good." I handed him the signed confession. "Make sure Samir's included in the investigation." My phone buzzed. Trey. "Is it done?" "It's done," I texted back. "The kids are safe." Walking to my car, I felt lighter than I had in years. Not because I'd won, but because I'd finally faced my past and come out stronger. My phone rang. Bethany. I saw the blog post, she said. You okay? Better than okay. I smiled, watching Marley leave the cafe in tears. I'm free. And the kids? They're free too. I started my car. That's all that matters. Because in the end, this wasn't about revenge. It was about justice. And sometimes, they look exactly the same. All rise. Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Martinez presiding. I stood beside Trey as the judge entered, my case files organized and ready. The courtroom was packed. Reporters, law students, and what seemed like half the legal community had come to witness the final hearing. Marley's seat was empty. According to her new attorney, she'd checked herself into a treatment facility the day after our cafe meeting. Part of me hoped she'd actually get the help she needed. Before we proceed, Judge Martinez began, I want to acknowledge the unusual circumstances of this case. Ms. Nichols, your public statement about your personal connection to this matter has raised some eyebrows in the legal community. Yes, Your Honor. However, she continued, your transparency and professional conduct throughout these proceedings have been exemplary. The court appreciates your handling of this sensitive situation. I nodded, feeling Trey's tension beside me. Given the evidence presented, including Mrs. Wheeler's signed confession and subsequent actions, I'm prepared to rule on the custody arrangement. The judge looked directly at Trey. Mr. Wheeler, please stand. He stood, hands trembling slightly. The court grants you full custody of Thomas and Sarah Wheeler. Mrs. Wheeler's visitation rights will be suspended pending completion of her treatment program and psychiatric evaluation. Furthermore, she shuffled some papers. The restraining order will remain in effect for the children's protection. I heard Trey's shaky exhale of relief. Your Honor, I said, regarding the financial allegations against my client? Yes. Given Mrs. Wheeler's confession and the evidence provided by former employees, all charges against Mr. Wheeler have been dropped. The DA's office will be handling the fraud case against Mrs. Wheeler and Mr. Rodriguez separately. As we gathered our things after adjournment, Bethany approached with Valeria. Impressive work, Bethany said, hugging me. Though I hear the State Bar Association wants to talk to you. My stomach dropped. About what? About heading their new ethics committee. She grinned. Apparently, your blog post about maintaining professional integrity while handling personal trauma has become required reading at 3 law schools. Speaking of reading, Valeria added, you might want to check your emails. The women's advocacy groups are fighting over who gets to have you as their keynote speaker. Before I could respond, I heard a small voice. Ms. Quinn. Tommy ran up, Sarah toddling behind him with Zoe. The little boy crashed into my legs, hugging tight. Thank you for helping my daddy, he said. I knelt down to his level. You helped too, buddy. You were very brave. Will we see Mommy again? I glanced at Trey, who nodded slightly. When she's feeling better, and only if you want to, but for now you're going to stay with your daddy, okay? Sarah reached for my hand with her tiny fingers. Story time? Actually, Trey said, I was hoping we could all get ice cream to celebrate. Ice cream! Tommy bounced excitedly. Quinn? Trey looked at me uncertainly. Would you join us? 5 years ago, this invitation would have broken me. Now, looking at these children who'd somehow worked their way into my heart, I felt only peace. I'd love to, I said. But first, I walked over to the prosecution's table where Samir's case files lay. His disbarment hearing was next week, and my testimony would ensure he never practiced law again. Justice comes in many forms, Bethany said, following my gaze. Yes, I agreed. But mercy does too. I turned to Trey. You know what? Let's skip ice cream. I know a great park with an amazing playground. These kids could probably use some sunshine. Tommy's face lit up. Can we feed the ducks? Absolutely. As we walked out of the courthouse, reporters called my name asking for statements. I stopped briefly. The only statement I have is this. The truth always finds its way to the light. And sometimes the greatest victory isn't in winning, but in helping others heal. At the park, watching Tommy and Sarah laugh on the swings while Trey pushed them, Zoe sat beside me on a bench. "You know," she said, "when you took this case, I thought you were either crazy or masochistic. Maybe a little of both. But now I get it. This was never about Trey or Marlee." "No," I agreed. "It was about doing what's right, even when it hurts. About facing your demons and realizing they don't control you anymore." My phone buzzed. A text from Bethany. "Women's Crisis Center board meeting tomorrow. They want you to lead their legal advocacy program. You in?" I looked at the kids playing, at Trey's relieved smile, at the life I'd built from the ashes of betrayal. "I'm in," I texted back, "because sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's building something beautiful from something broken. It's helping others find their strength. It's remembering that even in our darkest moments, we have the power to choose justice over vengeance, healing over hurt." And as I joined Tommy and Sarah at the duck pond, their small hands trustingly in mine, I knew I'd made the right choice. This was my victory. Not because I'd won, but because I'd helped break a cycle of pain. And in doing so, I'd finally set myself free.
The crystal wine glass trembled in my hand as I watched my mother-in-law's perfectly manicured fingers drum against the mahogany dining table. Every tap felt like a countdown to my inevitable humiliation. "So, Eliana," Paula's voice dripped with artificial sweetness, "how's that little online shop of yours doing? Still selling those, what do you call them, ethnic accessories?" I'm Eliana Santiago, and 3 months ago, I quit my corporate job to launch my own boutique. Tonight's dinner was supposed to be a celebration of my first successful quarter. Instead, it had become another stage for Paula's theatrical disapproval. "Actually, we've had a great month," I said, straightening my spine. "Our handcrafted bags are selling well, and we're planning to expand into—" "Darling," Paula interrupted, reaching for her wine, "wouldn't it be better to focus on something more substantial? Rhett's firm is always looking for marketing professionals." My husband squeezed my hand under the table. "Mum, Eliana's business is substantial. She's already turning a profit." "A profit?" Paula laughed, the sound echoing through her massive dining room. "What's that, dear?" "Enough to buy a new handbag from a real designer." Lauren, my sister-in-law, shifted uncomfortably in her seat. "I actually bought one of Eliana's bags. The craftsmanship is incredible." Paula's eyes narrowed. "Lauren, please, you're just encouraging this hobby." "It's not a hobby," I said, my voice stronger than I felt. "We've caught the attention of several major influencers and—" "Oh yes, those internet people." Paula waved her hand dismissively. "Speaking of which, I had lunch with Brian Fernandez yesterday. You know, the investor you've been trying to meet with." My stomach dropped. Brian was my potential ticket to scaling the business. I'd been trying to get a meeting with him for weeks. "What did you tell him?" Rhett asked, his fork clattering against his plate. "Only the truth, darling, that while Eliana's enthusiasm is charming, her business model lacks the sophistication needed for serious consideration." Paula dabbed her lips with her napkin. I couldn't let him waste his time. The room spun, weeks of work, carefully crafted presentations, all potentially ruined because of one lunch. "You had no right," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I had every right. The Webbers have a reputation to maintain. We can't have family members running around playing shopkeeper with borrowed cultural trinkets." "Borrowed?" I stood up, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. "These designs are based on my grandmother's heritage. Each piece tells a story of—" "Oh, please spare us the immigrant success story." Paula rolled her eyes. "It's all very touching, but this isn't some feel-good movie, Eliana. This is real life." Rhett stood beside me. "That's enough, Mom. Sit down, both of you. You're making a scene." Paula turned to the butler hovering nearby. "James, bring out the dessert." My phone buzzed, an email notification. I opened it under the table, my hands shaking. "Dear Ms. Santiago, after careful consideration, we regret to inform you that we'll have to cancel our upcoming order." Another buzz. Another cancellation. Paula's smile grew wider as she watched my face. She knew. Somehow she knew exactly what was happening. "Everything all right, dear? You look pale. Perhaps the stress of running a business is too much for you." I grabbed my purse and headed for the door. Rhett closed behind. Lauren called out, "Eliana, wait!" In the foyer, Rhett caught my arm. "I'm so sorry, I'll talk to her." "Talk to her." I laughed bitterly. "She's systematically destroying everything I've built. Those cancellations aren't a coincidence, Rhett. She's been calling my clients." "We'll fix this," he promised, pulling me close. From the dining room, Paula's voice carried clearly. "She'll thank me one day. Sometimes we need to be cruel to be kind." That's when something inside me snapped. The fear, the intimidation, the constant need to prove myself. It all crystallized into something harder, sharper. I pulled away from Rhett and walked back into the dining room. Paula looked up, surprised by my return. "You know what, Paula? You're right about one thing. This isn't a feel-good movie. But you've made a serious mistake." "Oh?" She raised an eyebrow. "And what's that?" "You assumed I'd break, that I'd crawl back to corporate life with my tail between my legs. But here's the thing about my grandmother's heritage. We don't break. We transform." I turned to leave, but not before catching Lauren's small smile and Paula's momentarily uncertain expression. In the car, my phone buzzed again. Another cancellation. But instead of despair, I felt something else. Determination. Paula Weber had just given me the greatest gift possible. A reason to succeed that went beyond profit margins and sales figures. She wanted to play games. Fine. But she'd forgotten one crucial detail. I had nothing left to lose. And that made me more dangerous than she could imagine. My grandmother's weathered hands traced the intricate patterns on her old shawl as I sat cross-legged on her living room floor, surrounded by my laptop, sketch papers, and a rapidly cooling cup of café con leche. "Abuela, tell me again about the pattern," I said, pencil poised over my sketchbook. "The one from the Resistance." Francesca's eyes sparkled with memories. "Ah, mi amor. These weren't just pretty designs. Each pattern was a message. A secret code for those who knew how to read it. This spiral here? It meant safe passage. The broken line? Danger ahead. I sketched frantically, my mind racing with possibilities. 3 days had passed since Paula's dinner party disaster, and I'd already lost 60% of my confirmed orders. But sitting here, listening to my grandmother's stories, I knew exactly what I had to do. My phone rang. "Rhett. Hey, love. How's the damage control going?" "It's not," I admitted, adding shading to my sketch, "but I have a different plan. I'm liquidating our savings." Silence crackled over the line. "Eliana, that's everything we have. I know. But I'm creating something new, something that matters." I looked at my grandmother, who was now humming softly as she folded her shawl. "Remember how you always said I should tell my story? Well, I'm finally ready." "Paula will hate it," he said, but I could hear the smile in his voice. "That's just a bonus." After hanging up, I showed my sketches to Francesca. Her eyes widened. "Mi niña, these are the patterns from the Resistance, but different." "Modern interpretations," I explained. "Each piece will tell a story of survival, of fighting back, but with a twist that speaks to today's world." The doorbell rang. Lauren stood on the porch, clutching a thick manila envelope. "Can I come in?" she asked, glancing nervously over her shoulder. "I have something you need to see." Inside, Lauren spread documents across the coffee table, displacing my sketches. "I found these in Mom's study," she said. "She's been embezzling from her own charity for years. The numbers don't add up, and these offshore accounts." She pointed to several highlighted figures. "It's bad, Eliana, really bad." My hands shook as I examined the papers. "Why are you showing me this?" Lauren's eyes met mine. "Because I'm tired of her destroying people. What she did to your business? It's not the first time. She ruins anyone who threatens her social standing." Francesca hobbled over, peering at the documents. "Sometimes," she said softly, "the greatest revolution is simply telling the truth." I stared at the evidence of Paula's fraud, then at my sketches. An idea began to form. "Lauren, I need your help. Both of you." I pulled out my phone and dialed my supplier. "Hi, Maria. Remember that crazy idea we discussed? I'm in, all in. The next 2 weeks became a blur of activity. I sold everything that wasn't essential, poured every penny into materials and production. Francesca's stories became the heart of each design, while Lauren secretly gathered more evidence of Paula's misconduct. My small workshop transformed into a war room of creativity. Every piece in the collection carried a hidden message, patterns that spoke of resistance, of standing up to oppression, but reimagined for modern women fighting modern battles. "You're crazy," Rhett said one night watching me work, "but I've never been more proud." "Even though I'm risking everything." He picked up one of the finished bags, admiring the intricate pattern. "Especially because of that. You're fighting back with beauty, with truth. It's brilliant." My phone buzzed with a text from Lauren. "Mum's planning something big, be careful." As if on cue, an email arrived from my remaining major client cancelling their order. My hands trembled as I opened my banking app, checking our account balance. The numbers made my stomach lurch. "We're almost out of money," I whispered. Rhett wrapped his arms around me. "Then we've got nothing left to lose." Francesca, who had been quietly observing from her chair, spoke up. "When they took everything from us, that's when we became most dangerous, because then we fought with our whole hearts." I looked at my grandmother, this tiny woman who had survived a revolution, who had carried her stories in secret patterns and whispered them to me at bedtime. Then I looked at my collection, her legacy transformed into something new and powerful. My phone buzzed again. An unknown number. "Is this Eliana? Brian Fernandez here. I've been hearing some interesting things about your new collection." I caught my breath. "Mr. Fernandez, Let me be clear," he cut in. "Paula Weber has been insistent about keeping me away from your business, which frankly only made me more curious. I'd like to see what you're working on. Tomorrow, if possible." After hanging up, I stood in my workshop, surrounded by my grandmother's stories made manifest in leather and silk. Paula thought she could silence me, erase me. But she'd forgotten something crucial. Some stories refused to stay buried. I picked up one of the bags, running my fingers over the pattern that meant revolution is coming. "Ready or not, Paula," I whispered. "Here we go." Brian Fernandez's office felt like a fortress of glass and steel, 30 stories above the city. I clutched my sample bag tighter as his assistant led me through the doors. "These patterns," Brian said, not bothering with pleasantries as he examined the bag. "They're unlike anything I've seen in the market. Tell me about them." I placed my grandmother's shawl on his desk. "Each design tells a story of resistance. This one, for example." His phone buzzed. He glanced at it and smirked. "That's the 3rd time Paula has called in the last hour. She seems very concerned about our meeting." "I'm not surprised," I said, keeping my voice steady. "She's invested a lot of energy in destroying my business." "Yes, she mentioned something about protecting me from a bad investment." He set the phone aside. "What she didn't mention was that your initial sales figures were impressive. Very impressive." A knock at the door interrupted us. Lauren burst in, ignoring the protesting assistant. "Sorry I'm late," she said, dropping into the chair beside me. "Traffic was terrible." Brian raised an eyebrow. "Ms. Weber, this is unexpected." "I'm here to support my sister-in-law," Lauren announced, pulling out a tablet. "And to show you something interesting about my mother's charitable foundation. The one you've been considering partnering with." His expression sharpened. "Go on." Lauren pulled up the documents she'd discovered, explaining the discrepancies while I sat in stunned silence. I hadn't expected her to be so bold. "These are serious allegations," Brian said, studying the numbers. "They're not allegations," Lauren replied. "They're facts. Mum's been stealing from her own charity for years, using it as her personal piggy bank while pretending to help underprivileged women." Brian leaned back, steepling his fingers. "And you're showing me this because?" "Because," I cut in, "we're offering you a better investment opportunity. One with actual impact." I pulled out my business plan, spreading it across his desk. "Each piece in my collection will partner with a legitimate women's organization. Real help for real women, with complete transparency. Plus," Lauren added, "the designs are incredible. And they come with a built-in market of women who are tired of being silenced. Brian's phone buzzed again. Paula's name flashed on the screen. "Should I take this?" he asked, a slight smile playing at his lips. "Actually," Lauren said, "put it on speaker." He did. "Brian, darling," Paula's voice filled the room. "Please tell me you haven't met with that girl yet. Her little ethnic crafts project is beneath you. Now about my foundation's fundraiser next month." "Paula," Brian interrupted, "I'm in a meeting. With Eliana and Lauren." The silence that followed was deafening. "Lauren?" Paula's voice cracked. "What are you doing there?" "The right thing, Mom." Finally. Brian ended the call. "Well, ladies, you've certainly made this interesting." He picked up one of my bags again. "Tell me more about your production capacity." An hour later, Lauren and I stood in the elevator, still processing what had happened. "I can't believe he's investing," I whispered, "and that you came." Lauren gripped my hand. "I've spent my whole life watching Mom crush people's dreams. I couldn't let her do it to you, too." My phone chimed with a text from Rhett. "Mum's on the warpath. She knows about the meeting, coming home early." "She's going to disown you," I told Lauren. "Probably," she agreed. "But you know what? For the first time in my life, I don't care." We stepped out of the elevator into chaos. Paula stood in the lobby, her perfect makeup unable to hide her fury. "How dare you?" she hissed at Lauren. "Conspiring against your own mother? No, Mom. How dare you? How dare you steal from charity? How dare you hurt everyone who doesn't fit your perfect image?" Security guards were moving our way. Paula noticed too and lowered her voice. "You have no idea what you've done. I'll cut you off. Both of you will be nothing." I stepped between them. "That's where you're wrong, Paula. We're not nothing. We're everything you're afraid of. Women who won't be silenced." "You'll regret this," she spat, but her voice trembled. "No," Lauren said quietly. "The only thing I regret is not standing up to you sooner." As Paula stormed out, Brian appeared behind us. "Impressive show," he said. "I trust you'll bring that same fire to our partnership." "The collection launches in 3 weeks," I confirmed. "Will you be there?" "Wouldn't miss it." He handed me a check. "Your first investment installment. Don't make me regret this." Outside, Lauren and I stood in the sunshine, still shaking from the confrontation. "What now?" she asked. I looked at the check in my hand, then at my phone where pictures of the collection's samples waited to be posted. "Now, we launch a revolution, one handbag at a time." Lauren linked her arm through mine. "Mum's going to try to stop us." "Let her try," I said, thinking of my grandmother's resistance patterns. "Some stories are stronger than fear." We walked away from the building, leaving Paula's world of artificial perfection behind. Ahead of us lay 3 weeks of hard work, but for the first time, I felt truly unstoppable. We had the truth on our side, and as my grandmother always said, truth was the strongest pattern of all. The morning of the launch, I arrived at the venue at dawn, my heart pounding as I unlocked the doors. The gallery space we'd rented was perfect, industrial chic with exposed brick walls that made the perfect backdrop for my collection. "Looking good, boss," Maria, my lead seamstress, called out as she wheeled in the first rack of bags, "though you might want to check social media." My stomach dropped as I pulled out my phone. The trending hashtag made my blood run cold. "Fake designer. It's everywhere," Lauren said, rushing in with her tablet. "Anonymous sources claiming you stole the designs that they're mass-produced knockoffs from overseas factories." I scrolled through the posts, each one worse than the last. "Paula? Has to be," Lauren agreed. "She's been meeting with her PR team all week." My phone rang. Brian. "Tell me these allegations aren't true," he said without preamble. "They're lies," I said, my voice firm. "Every piece is original, inspired by my grandmother's resistance patterns. I can prove it. You'd better. The press is already asking questions." After hanging up, I called Rhett. "Your mother's really done it this time," I said when he answered. "I know. I'm with her now. She's..." He paused. "She's hosting a press breakfast, talking about the importance of authentic design and cultural appreciation." I nearly dropped the phone. She's what? Says she's protecting the industry from frauds. Eliana. She's got photos of similar-looking bags from other designers. But those designs came from my grandmother. They're family patterns. Then prove it, he said simply. I looked around the gallery where my team was setting up, at the centerpiece display still empty, waiting for the star of the collection. Abuela, I said into the phone, I need you. Now, bring everything. 2 hours later, Francesca arrived with a trunk full of history. Together, we transformed one corner of the gallery into a living timeline. Her original shawls, photographs, documented stories of the resistance movements, all leading to my modern interpretations. Mi amor, she said, arranging her shawls. Your mother-in-law doesn't understand. These patterns aren't just designs, they're survival stories. The first reporters started arriving, drawn by Paula's allegations. But instead of finding a scandal, they found my grandmother holding court, captivating them with tales of revolution and resistance, showing how each pattern evolved from necessity to fashion. This spiral, she told a mesmerized journalist, it meant safe passage during the uprising. Now my granddaughter has transformed it into a symbol of modern women's journey. See how it flows into the bag's structure? Lauren burst in mid-afternoon. Mom's furious. Her breakfast backfired. Everyone's talking about the fascinating heritage angle of your collection. Good, I said, adjusting a display, because we're about to give them something bigger to talk about. I pulled out the centerpiece of the collection, a large tote bag with an intricate pattern that, at first glance, looked purely decorative. But embedded within the design were numbers, dates, and amounts matching the records Lauren had found of Paula's embezzlement. Is that what I think it is? Lauren whispered. The truth hidden in plain sight, just like my grandmother's resistance patterns. The gallery filled as launch time approached. Brian arrived with potential buyers. Fashion bloggers circulated, photographing everything. Even Rhett showed up, looking both proud and nervous. Then Paula walked in. She moved through the crowd like a shark, her designer heels clicking on the concrete floor. Quite the little museum you've created, she said, eyeing the heritage display. Though I doubt anyone's actually buying. Actually, Brian stepped forward, we've had significant pre-orders. The heritage angle is resonating strongly with consumers tired of soulless luxury brands. Paula's smile tightened. How nice. Though I wonder about the authenticity of these so-called resistance patterns. Why don't you ask me yourself? Francesca appeared beside us, her small frame radiating dignity. After all, I lived them. The crowd quieted, sensing drama. You know, Paula, I said, leading her to the centerpiece display. Some patterns tell stories we'd rather keep hidden, like this one. I watched her face as she examined the bag, saw the exact moment she recognized the numbers woven into the design. You wouldn't, she whispered. Try me. Ladies and gentlemen, I addressed the crowd, I'd like to tell you about this special piece. It's inspired by my grandmother's belief that truth, like beauty, deserves to be shared. Paula grabbed my arm. Think carefully about what you're doing. I looked at her perfectly manicured hand on my arm, then at my grandmother's weathered fingers tracing her resistance patterns, and finally at Lauren, who nodded slightly. The truth is, I continued, my voice carrying across the gallery, every pattern tells a story. The question is, which stories are we brave enough to tell? Paula's hand fell away as cameras flashed. In that moment, looking at her face, I realized the launch wasn't just about my collection anymore. It was about every woman who'd ever been told to stay quiet, to play small, to accept less than she deserved. And I was done being quiet. The morning after the launch, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Fashion blogs were calling the collection revolutionary. Major retailers wanted meetings. But the message that made my hands shake came from Paula's lawyer. Cease and desist, I read aloud to Lauren over coffee. Any interpretation of financial records in your designs constitutes defamation, Lauren snorted. Defamation requires the statements to be false. Those numbers are real. She's scared, Rhett said, joining us at my kitchen table. The charity gala is next week and ticket sales are down. People are asking questions. My phone lit up with another call. A morning show wanted an interview. Before I could answer, the doorbell rang. Brian strode in, tablet in hand. "Have you seen the numbers? Pre-orders have tripled since last night, but that's not why I'm here." He turned the tablet toward us. "Look who's trending." A video was going viral. Paula at my launch, her face contorting as she examined the centerpiece bag. Someone had captured the exact moment she recognized her own fraud woven into the pattern. "The internet is calling it the guilty look," Brian said. "It's becoming a meme." "Mom's going to lose it," Lauren whispered. Right on cue, my phone rang, Paula's number. "Put it on speaker," Rhett said. I did. "You think you're clever," Paula's voice trembled with rage. "But you've made a terrible mistake. The gala is next week. Every important person in this city will be there, and when I'm done, you'll wish you'd never touched a sewing machine." "Is that a threat, Paula?" "It's a promise. By the way, I've invited several intellectual property lawyers. They're very interested in examining your grandmother's so-called original patterns." The line went dead. "She wouldn't," Lauren gasped. "Going after Abuela's patterns? That's low even for her." I grabbed my keys. "Come on, we need to see Francesca." We found my grandmother in her garden calmly drinking tea. When I told her about Paula's threat, she laughed. "Mi amor, let her bring her lawyers. I have something to show you." She disappeared into her house, returning with a dusty box. I was waiting for the right time. Inside were dozens of yellow documents, official patents and design registrations dating back decades. "You registered the patents?" I breathed. "Of course. When we came to this country, I learned quickly about protecting what's yours." She smiled. "Your mother-in-law isn't the first bully I've faced." Brian, who'd followed us, was already photographing the documents. "This changes everything. These registrations, they're gold. And the timing." "What timing?" I asked. "The fashion world loves drama," he said. "Paula's gala is next week. What if we time our next move perfectly?" Lauren's eyes lit up. "The gala invitations haven't gone out yet. Mum's been delayed choosing the perfect design." "I might have an idea," I said slowly, pulling out my sketchbook. "But I'll need your help, Lauren. All of your help." Over the next few days, we worked in secret. Lauren provided the guest list. Brian connected me with a high-end printer. Francesca shared more stories, more patterns, each one now proven legally mine. The night before the gala invitations were supposed to go out, Lauren called in a panic. "Mom's suspicious. She's asking questions about the printer delay." "Is everything ready?" I asked. "Yes. The invitations are perfect. Each one has your special pattern embedded in the design. When the story breaks during the gala, everyone will already have the evidence in their hands," I finished. That night, I couldn't sleep. Rhett found me in my workshop tracing patterns on scratch paper. "Having second thoughts?" he asked. "No. Yes. Maybe." I looked up at him. "This will destroy her." "She tried to destroy you first," he reminded me. "Multiple times." "I know, but—" My phone buzzed. A text from Lauren. "Mom just approved the invitations. They're going out tomorrow morning. Last chance to back out." I thought about Paula's smug face at that first dinner party, her deliberate dismantling of my business, her threats against my grandmother's legacy. "No backing out," I texted back. Rhett wrapped his arms around me. "Whatever happens, I'm with you." The next morning, 500 invitations went out to the city's elite. 500 pieces of evidence disguised as elegant party invitations, each bearing a pattern that told the true story of Paula's charity fraud. My phone rang. "Brian." "It's done," he said. "The invitations are delivered, and I've just confirmed our spot at the gala. Front row seats to watch it all unfold." I hung up and walked to my window, watching the morning sun rise over the city. In mansions and penthouses across town, Paula's carefully curated guest list was receiving their invitations, unknowingly holding the keys to her downfall in their manicured hands. 1 week, I whispered to myself, 1 week until the truth comes out in the most public way possible. My phone buzzed again. A message from Paula. The invitations are perfect, dear. Perhaps you're learning something about class after all. I smiled at the irony. Yes, Paula, I thought. I've learned quite a lot about class. And next week, you'll learn about consequences. The ballroom of the Grand Plaza Hotel glittered with crystal chandeliers and Paula's carefully curated guest list. I adjusted my dress, one of my own designs, naturally, and watched the crowd through the service entrance. Ready? Lauren appeared beside me, stunning in midnight blue. Mum's about to make her entrance. Are the accountants here? She nodded. Front row, just like you asked. They've reviewed all the evidence. They're just waiting for the signal. The crowd hushed as Paula swept in, resplendent in designer couture. She took the stage with practiced grace, tapping the microphone. Welcome, everyone. Tonight we celebrate 10 years of our foundation's work. She paused, scanning the crowd. Her smile faltered when she spotted me. Work that has touched countless lives. I checked my watch. Any minute now. If you'll all take out your invitations, Paula continued, you'll notice a special design element, a pattern that represents our commitment to... Excuse me, a voice called out. An elderly man in an expensive suit stood up, invitation in hand. Could you explain these numbers woven into the pattern? Paula's face went blank. Numbers. Yes, another guest chimed in. They look like account transfers. Quite substantial ones. The whispers started. All around the ballroom, people were examining their invitations more closely, phones out, comparing notes. This can't be right, someone said loudly. These dates match unauthorized withdrawals from the foundation's accounts. Paula's hands gripped the podium. I'm sure there's some mistake. No mistake, Mrs. Weber. One of the accountants stood up. These numbers match exactly with our investigation's findings. Funds meant for women's education programs, diverted to personal accounts. The whispers turned to murmurs. Phones were lighting up everywhere as guests photographed their invitations. This is absurd, Paula announced, but her voice shook. These invitations were designed by... She looked directly at me. I stood up slowly. By me, I said clearly. Using my grandmother's resistance patterns, the same ones you tried to discredit, except this time they're telling a modern story of corruption. Security, Paula called out. Remove her. I wouldn't, Brian stood up. Not unless you want to add assault charges to the fraud allegations. Paula's perfect composure cracked. Lauren, darling, help Mommy explain. Explain what, Mom? Lauren's voice carried across the suddenly silent room. How you stole from your own charity. How you used that money to maintain your social status while destroying anyone who threatened it. I did it for you. Paula's voice rose hysterically. Everything I did was to maintain our position, our influence. No, Lauren said quietly. You did it for yourself. The room erupted in chaos. Reporters who'd been invited to cover the gala were suddenly conducting a very different kind of interview. Phones were ringing as board members called their lawyers. And in the middle of it all, Paula stood frozen at the podium. I made my way toward her, but Rhett got there first. Mum, he said softly, it's over. Paula's face crumpled. For a moment, I saw something I'd never seen before. Fear. Real, raw fear in the eyes of a woman who'd always been so carefully controlled. You don't understand, she whispered. Without this, without my reputation, I'm nothing. Something twisted in my chest. This was what I'd wanted, wasn't it? To see her broken, humiliated, just as she'd tried to humiliate me. But watching her stand there, her perfect world crashing down, I felt no triumph, only a hollow sadness. Mrs. Weber? A police officer appeared beside her. We need you to come with us. As they led her away, she turned to me one last time. I hope you're happy now. I'm not, I said honestly. But maybe that's the difference between us. The media frenzy lasted for hours. By midnight, Juice Charity Gate scandal was trending nationwide. Lauren was speaking with foundation board members about emergency restructuring. Brian was handling press inquiries about our partnership. I found myself on the hotel's terrace away from the chaos. Rhett joined me, loosening his tie. "You okay?" he asked. "I thought this would feel different," I admitted. "More satisfying." "Because you're not like her," he said simply. "Your grandmother's patterns weren't just about resistance. They were about survival, about building something better." My phone buzzed. A message from Francesca. "Remember, mi amor, true victory isn't in destroying your enemies. It's in building something they can't tear down." I looked back through the glass doors at the scattered remains of Paula's gala. At Lauren, strong and capable, already working to save the Foundation's mission. At the guests examining my designs with new interest, seeing the power of patterns that told the truth. "So what now?" Rhett asked. I squeezed his hand, thinking of all the women who could be helped by a properly run foundation, of all the stories still waiting to be told through my designs. "Now," I said, "we build something better." Inside, the chaos continued, but out here, under the stars, I finally understood. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't in destroying your enemy's world. It's in creating a better one of your own. 3 days after the gala, I stood outside the county jail, my heart pounding. The guard led me through security to a stark visiting room where Paula sat, wearing an orange jumpsuit that clashed horribly with her perfectly maintained hair. "Come to gloat?" she asked as I sat down. "No, I came to make you an offer." She laughed bitterly. "What could you possibly offer me now? You've taken everything. Actually, I'm offering to give something back." I placed a folder on the table between us. The Foundation. That got her attention. "Lauren and I have been working with the board. They're willing to drop some of the charges if you agree to our terms." "Which are?" "Step down completely. Let us restructure the Foundation with full transparency. And," I took a deep breath, "work with us to make it what it should have been all along." Paula's perfectly plucked eyebrows shot up. "You want me to work with you? You have connections we need. Real relationships with donors. Knowledge of how these circles work. Use that for good this time." "And why would I do that?" "Because your other option is fighting federal fraud charges. Your choice." She studied me for a long moment. "You're nothing like what I expected, you know. When Rhett first brought you home, I thought you were just another social climber." "Maybe that's been your problem all along," I said. "You see everyone as either a threat or a tool." The door opened and Lauren walked in. Paula's composure cracked slightly. "Hi, Mom," Lauren said softly. "Lauren, darling, you look different." "I feel different. Stronger." Lauren sat beside me. "We've been going through the Foundation's records. You actually had some amazing ideas in the beginning, before it became about status and power." Paula's hands trembled slightly. "It was never supposed to—" She stopped, composing herself. "What exactly are you proposing?" I pulled out the paperwork. A new board structure. Lauren as executive director. You as a special advisor, once the legal issues are resolved. And a completely new mission focusing on women entrepreneurs from underprivileged backgrounds. Using my designs, I added, each piece telling a story of transformation. Real women's stories. Paula picked up the papers, scanning them with practiced eyes. "This could actually work," she murmured. "The donor base would love the redemption angle." "This isn't about angles," Lauren said firmly. "It's about doing something meaningful." A guard announced visiting time was ending. Paula handed back the papers. "I'll have my lawyer review these." As we stood to leave, she called out, "Eliana?" I turned. "Your grandmother's patterns. They really are extraordinary." It wasn't quite an apology, but it was something. Outside the jail, Lauren hugged me tight. "Thank you for giving her a chance." "She's still your mother," I said, "and maybe she can learn to be a better one." My phone buzzed, Brian calling. "Turn on the news," he said without preamble. Lauren and I rushed to her car, flipping on the radio. The story was everywhere. Fashion industry rallies behind emerging designers' anti-corruption collection. "The orders are pouring in," Brian said. "Everyone wants the bags that took down a corrupt empire. But that's not all. Major retailers are asking about your full line, the one with your grandmother's original patterns." I looked at Lauren, who was grinning. "Think bigger," she said. That evening, I gathered everyone at my grandmother's house: Rhett, Lauren, Brian, and most importantly, Francesca herself. "I have an idea," I announced, spreading out fresh sketches on the dining table. "What if we combine the Foundation's new mission with my designs, each piece created in partnership with a woman entrepreneur telling their story through patterns?" "A mentorship program," Lauren added excitedly, "connecting established businesses with startups." "Using Mom's network for good," Rhett nodded. Brian was already typing on his tablet. "The press will love it. Redemption, innovation, social impact. It's perfect." But I was watching my grandmother, who had been quietly examining my sketches. "Abuela, what do you think?" She picked up one of the drawings, a design that incorporated both her resistance patterns and modern elements. "When I created these patterns," she said slowly, "they were about survival, about keeping hope alive in dark times." She smiled. "But you, mi amor, you've made them about thriving, about helping others rise." "Is that okay?" I asked softly. She cupped my face in her weathered hands. "It's better than okay. It's exactly what they were meant to become." My phone chimed with a message from Paula's lawyer. She was accepting our offer. "Well," Brian said, raising his coffee cup, "here's to new patterns." "To new stories," Lauren added. "To second chances," Rhett smiled. I looked around at this unlikely family we'd created, my husband, his sister, my grandmother, our allies, and felt something settle in my heart. The patterns of our lives were shifting, weaving together into something stronger and more beautiful than before. "To transformation," I said, and we all raised our cups to that. The autumn breeze carried the scent of coffee and fresh paint through the open windows of our new flagship store. I adjusted the display of handcrafted bags, each one telling a different entrepreneur's story through its patterns. "The reporters are here," Lauren called from the front, "and Mom's car just pulled up." My hands trembled slightly as I straightened the centerpiece, a recreation of my grandmother's original shawl, now transformed into a modern messenger bag, the pattern that started it all. Paula entered first, looking elegant but subdued in one of my designs, a silk scarf featuring a pattern that meant redemption in my grandmother's code. The ankle monitor beneath her pants leg served as a humble reminder of consequences still being paid. "The place looks magnificent," she said, running her fingers along a display, "though perhaps the lighting could be adjusted to—" "Mom," Lauren warned. Paula caught herself. "Sorry, old habits." The store filled quickly with journalists, photographers, and most importantly, the women from our mentorship program. Each one stood proudly beside the designs they'd helped create, ready to share their stories. Francesca arrived last, supported by Rhett. She paused at the entrance, taking in the scene. "Mi niña," she whispered, tears in her eyes. "Look what you've built." Brian stepped forward, tapping a glass for attention. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the grand opening of Pattern Revolution's flagship store. But this is more than just a boutique. It's the home base for our foundation's mentorship program." I took the microphone, my voice steady. "Every piece you see here represents a collaboration between established designers and emerging entrepreneurs. Each pattern tells a story of transformation." "Like this one," Paula stepped forward, surprising everyone. "This scarf I'm wearing, it represents my own journey. From someone who used power to crush others, to learning how to lift them up instead." The crowd murmured. This wasn't in the script. "My daughter and daughter-in-law taught me something valuable," Paula continued. "True influence isn't about maintaining status. It's about creating opportunity." Lauren squeezed my hand as Paula turned to us. "I'm sorry," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "For everything I did to hurt you both." A photographer's flash captured the moment. Paula Weber, humbled but dignified, extending an olive branch in front of the world. "And now," Brian jumped in smoothly, "I'd like to introduce our first group of mentees." One by one, women stepped forward to share their stories. A refugee who designed bags incorporating traditional crafts from her homeland. A domestic violence survivor whose patterns symbolized breaking free, a former inmate whose designs represented second chances. "This is real power," I whispered to Paula, who stood beside me. "Not what you can take from others, but what you can help them build." She nodded, dabbing at her eyes with the corner of her scarf. "I'm beginning to understand that." The event culminated with Francesca demonstrating how to read the resistance patterns, teaching a new generation the secret language of survival and hope. Journalists scribbled frantically, cameras flashed, and social media lit up with images of my grandmother's weathered hands tracing patterns that had once saved lives. As the crowd thinned, a young woman approached me clutching a portfolio. "I've been following your story," she said nervously. "I have some designs, patterns from my own culture." "Come," I led her to the consultation area. "Tell me your story." Later that night, after the cameras left and the signs were turned off, our small family gathered in the store. Lauren and Paula sat together, tentatively discussing foundation plans. Rhett and Brian reviewed sales figures. Francesca dozed in our custom-designed reading nook. I stood in the center, surrounded by the physical manifestation of our journey. Patterns of resistance transformed into symbols of progress. Stories of pain turned into testimonies of triumph. "Penny for your thoughts?" Rhett asked, wrapping his arms around me. "I was just thinking about that dinner party," I said, "when Paula first tried to destroy my business. How it felt like the end of everything. And now? Now I realize it was just the beginning of something bigger than revenge or success." "Speaking of beginnings," Lauren called out, "Mom has an announcement." Paula stood smoothing her scarf. "I've decided to donate my house for the Foundation's new training center." "The house?" I gasped. "But that's your pride and joy." "It was," she admitted. "But I'm learning to take pride in different things now." Francesca stirred from her nap. The strongest pattern of all, transformation. I looked around at these people who had become my unlikely team. At Paula, who was learning to channel her influence for good. At Lauren, who had found her strength. At my grandmother, whose resistance patterns had evolved into symbols of empowerment. The store's lights dimmed automatically, casting gentle shadows that made the patterns seem to dance across the walls. Each design told a story, of survival, of change, of hope. But together they told an even bigger story, that sometimes the most beautiful patterns emerge from the darkest threads. "Ready to go home?" Rhett asked. "Actually," I smiled, pulling out my sketchbook, "I have some new ideas I want to work on. Because that's the thing about patterns, they never really end. They just keep evolving, weaving new stories, creating new possibilities. And this was just the beginning of ours."
The moment Linda grabbed the microphone, I should have known my perfect day was about to shatter. But there I sat, radiant in my white dress, my new husband Craig's hand warm in mine, believing this was finally my moment of triumph. I'm Martina, and this is the story of how my stepmother turned my wedding reception into ground zero for the biggest family explosion of my life. Just moments before, everything had been exactly as I'd dreamed. The fairy lights twinkled across the garden venue, my carefully crafted menu was receiving endless compliments, and even my usually stoic father had tears in his eyes during our dance. "The salmon is divine," Linda announced, standing up and tapping her glass with a silver spoon. Almost as impressive as the fact that my stepdaughter managed to pull off this wedding while her catering business is facing bankruptcy. The crystal champagne flute slipped from my fingers, shattering against the table. Craig's grip tightened on my hand as whispers rippled through the crowd. "Linda, sit down," my father Edison warned, his voice sharp. She smiled that perfect real estate agent smile of hers. "Oh, come now. Everyone should know what they're getting into. Craig's family especially deserves to know that their new daughter-in-law is drowning in debt." "That's enough." Craig stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. "This is our wedding day." I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Around me, 200 guests shifted uncomfortably in their seats, their eyes either fixed on their plates or openly staring at me with pity. "Did you tell them about the missed payments, dear?" Linda continued, her voice dripping with false concern. "Or how you begged the bank for an extension last week?" My best friend Krista appeared beside me, her hand on my shoulder. "Don't listen to her, Martina. She's just trying to hurt you." But the damage was done. I could see Craig's father Paul whispering to his wife, their faces drawn with concern. The caterers I'd hired, colleagues from my early days in the industry, were exchanging glances. My reputation, both personal and professional, was unraveling with each word Linda spoke. "I'm only looking out for everyone's best interests," Linda said, spreading her hands. "It would be irresponsible not to—" "Stop it, Mom!" My stepsister Alyssa's quiet voice cut through the chaos. She stood up slowly, her hands shaking. "Just stop!" Linda's perfect smile faltered for just a moment. "Darling, sit down. This doesn't concern you." "I think it does," Alyssa replied, her voice stronger now. She turned to face me, her eyes full of apology. "Martina, I'm so sorry. I should have told you sooner." "Alyssa," Linda warned, but something had changed in her voice. Was that fear? I found my voice at last, pushing back my chair. "Told me what?" The silence that followed felt endless. Linda's face had lost its triumphant glow, replaced by something I'd never seen before: panic. "Perhaps we should discuss this privately," my father suggested, standing up. "No," I said, surprising myself with the strength in my voice. "No more secrets, no more private discussions where Linda gets to control the narrative." "What were you going to tell me, Alyssa?" My quiet stepsister looked directly at Linda, then back at me. "The truth about where the family money has really been going these past 6 months." Linda lunged for the microphone, but Alyssa was faster. In that moment, watching my stepmother's perfectly manicured hands grasping at air, I realized everything was about to change. "Don't you dare," Linda hissed, but her usual authority had crumbled. "I've seen the bank statements," Alyssa continued, her voice trembling but clear. "I've seen the withdrawals, the casino receipts, the hidden credit cards." The room erupted in gasps and murmurs. My father's face went pale. "Edison," Linda turned to him, her voice honeyed again. "Don't listen to these ridiculous accusations. I would never—" "Show him the proof, Alyssa," I heard myself say, standing straighter. "Show everyone exactly who's been lying about money problems." Linda's eyes met mine, and for the first time in 15 years, I didn't shrink under her gaze. Instead, I watched as her carefully constructed world began to crumble, just as she had tried to destroy mine. "This wedding is over," Linda announced, grabbing her purse. But as she turned to leave, I saw what she didn't. Not a single person stood to follow her, not even my father. Craig pulled me close, his arms steady around me. "Are you okay?" I wasn't, not even close. But as I looked around at the faces of our guests, no longer pitying but shocked and supportive, I felt something shift inside me. The need for Linda's approval, the constant fear of her judgment, began to fade. "No," I answered honestly, squeezing his hand. "But I think I'm about to be." 3 months before my wedding, I stood in Linda's pristine kitchen, clutching a folder of business projections while she sipped her morning coffee. That day marked my 100th attempt to earn her approval, and my 100th failure. "Honestly, Martina, I don't understand why you insist on this catering venture," she said, barely glancing at my carefully prepared documents. "Your father and I could set you up with a real career in real estate." "My business is real," I replied, fighting to keep my voice steady. "We've catered 3 major corporate events this month alone." She raised a perfectly shaped eyebrow. "And yet here you are, asking for advice about a business loan." "I'm not asking for money," I clarified quickly. "I just wanted your opinion on the expansion plan. Since you've built your own business—" "Let me stop you right there." Linda set down her coffee cup with a sharp clink. "Your little cooking hobby isn't comparable to what I've built. Do you know how many properties I sold last year?" Before I could answer, my father walked in, his tie slightly crooked. "Morning, sweetheart," he said, kissing my cheek. "What's all this?" "Just trying to talk some sense into your daughter," Linda sighed. "She's still pursuing this catering fantasy." Dad picked up one of my spreadsheets. "These numbers look impressive, Martina. Is this all from the hospital contract?" "Yes, and we have 2 more corporate clients lined up," I said, grateful for his interest. "That's why I'm considering the loan, to expand our kitchen space. Linda's laugh cut through the air. Edison, please. She's getting married in 3 months. Shouldn't she be focusing on starting a family instead of playing restaurant? I can do both, I insisted, but my voice sounded small even to my own ears. The way you did both when you burned those appetizers at the Thompson wedding? Linda's words struck like precise arrows. What was it they called them? Charcoal squares? That was 2 years ago, I protested. We've grown since then. Have you? She stood, smoothing her silk blouse. Because I heard the Harrison corporate lunch last week was served late. 20 minutes late, to be exact. My stomach dropped. How did you— I have connections, dear. I hear things. She touched my father's arm. Edison, we should get going. That showing won't wait. Dad hesitated, looking between us. Maybe we could discuss this more over dinner. Nothing to discuss, Linda said firmly. Martina knows I'm right, don't you, dear? I gathered my papers with trembling hands, decades of similar conversations echoing in my head. The time she'd called my college choice pedestrian. The day she'd described my first apartment as quaint, with that same dismissive smile. Actually, I said, straightening my spine, I've already applied for the loan. Linda froze. You what? I applied last week. The bank's reviewing it now. Without consulting us? She turned to my father. Edison, did you hear this? Dad looked uncomfortable. She's an adult, Linda. If she believes in her business— Oh, please. Linda's voice turned sharp. When this fails, and it will fail, don't come crying to us. We won't bail you out. I won't need bailing out, I said, but my confidence was wavering. Right. She smiled that real estate smile again. Just like you didn't need help after the Thompson disaster, or after your first location flooded. Face it, Martina, you're not cut out for this. Linda, my father warned, but she continued. I'm being kind. Someone needs to be honest with her. This business will bankrupt you, and then what? You'll drag Craig down with you? Shame his family? I walked out of her kitchen that day with my folder clutched to my chest, her words following me like persistent shadows. But something else followed me too, a quiet determination I hadn't felt before. That evening, Krista found me in my small commercial kitchen, aggressively kneading bread dough. Rough day? She asked, hopping onto a clean counter. Linda, I said, punching the dough harder than necessary. Ah. She watched me work for a moment. You know she's wrong about you, right? I stopped kneading. Is she? The loan officer looked pretty skeptical today. Hey. Krista jumped down and grabbed my flour-covered hands. Remember when we catered that wedding in the middle of that freak storm? Everyone said we should cancel, but you found a way. You always find a way. That was different. No, it wasn't. You're good at this, Martina. Really good. Don't let her make you doubt that. I looked around my small kitchen, the gleaming equipment, the organized shelves, the wall of happy client testimonials. Everything I'd built, despite Linda's constant predictions of failure. You're right, I said finally. I wish she could see it too. Maybe she does, Krista suggested. Maybe that's exactly what scares her. I didn't know then how right Krista was, or how Linda's fear would eventually expose itself at my wedding. I just knew that for the first time, I was done trying to earn her approval. Back at my wedding reception, the silence following Alyssa's revelation felt like a physical weight. Linda stood frozen, her perfectly maintained facade cracking at the edges. My father's face had gone from shocked to ashen as he stared at his wife of 15 years. The casino receipts, Alyssa continued, her voice stronger now, show withdrawals of over $50,000 in the past 3 months alone. You went through my personal records? Linda's voice shook with rage. They weren't exactly hidden, Alyssa replied. You left them open on your laptop, multiple times. Craig squeezed my hand as I watched the scene unfold. His father Paul had moved closer to our table, his expression a mix of relief and vindication. I always knew something wasn't right about her, he muttered, just loud enough for me to hear. Linda's eyes darted around the room like a cornered animal's. Edison, surely you don't believe these ridiculous accusations? My father slowly stood up, his hands trembling as he reached for his phone. Show me the proof, Alyssa. Daddy, don't, Linda started, but Alyssa was already pulling out her own phone. I took pictures, she said quietly, of everything. The bank statements, the credit card bills, the IOUs from the Golden Palace Casino. The crowd of wedding guests had formed a loose circle around us, their earlier discomfort at my supposed financial troubles forgotten in light of this new drama. I should have felt vindicated, triumphant even, but watching my father's face as he scrolled through Alyssa's evidence just made my heart ache. 60,000 in March, he read aloud, his voice hollow. 85,000 in April, 120,000 in May. He looked up at Linda. Our anniversary weekend, when you said you were at a real estate convention. I can explain, Linda said quickly. The market's been difficult. I needed to cover some temporary losses. By gambling away our savings? My father's voice cracked. Krista appeared at my side with a glass of water. Drink this, she whispered. You're shaking. I hadn't even noticed, but she was right. My hands trembled as I lifted the glass to my lips. I was going to win it back, Linda insisted, her composure slipping further. I had a system, I just needed a little more time. Time? Alyssa interrupted. Like the time you spent trying to destroy Martina's reputation, making her doubt herself, all while you were stealing from our family? Linda spun toward her daughter. I was protecting this family. Everything I've done was for yourself, I found myself saying. The words came out clear and strong, surprising even me. It was always for yourself, Linda. The criticism, the manipulation, the constant undermining, it was all to keep everyone focused on our supposed failures instead of your own. You ungrateful little... Linda started toward me, but Craig stepped between us. That's enough, he said firmly. Security will escort you out if necessary. Linda's eyes widened as she realized how many people were watching. Her carefully curated image as the successful, sophisticated real estate mogul was crumbling in front of Phoenix's entire upper society. Edison. She tried one last time, reaching for my father's arm. He pulled away as if her touch burned. How much? He asked quietly. How much in total? Alyssa swallowed hard. From what I've found, just over $800,000. The gasps around the room were audible. My father sank back into his chair, looking suddenly old. I trusted you, he whispered, with everything. Daddy, please, Linda's voice had turned desperate. We can fix this. I'll get help. Security, Craig called, and two men in dark suits appeared almost instantly. As they approached, Linda straightened her spine, trying to salvage what dignity she had left. Fine. I'll leave. But remember, Martina, you did this. You destroyed this family. I stepped forward, finally free of the fear that had controlled me for so long. No, Linda. You did that all on your own. They led her away, her heels clicking against the floor in angry staccato. The moment she disappeared, Alyssa collapsed into a chair, tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry, she sobbed. I should have said something sooner. I was scared of her too. I moved to her side, wrapping my arms around my stepsister. You were incredibly brave tonight. But the wedding, I ruined everything. I looked around at the gathered guests, at Craig standing protective and proud beside me, at my father being comforted by his oldest friends, even at Paul, who now viewed me with respect instead of suspicion. You didn't ruin anything, I told her. You just helped us all see the truth. Krista raised her glass. To the truth, she called out, and slowly, tentatively, other glasses rose to join hers. As the murmur of conversation gradually returned to the reception, I felt lighter somehow. The weight of Linda's judgment, her constant criticism, had lifted. But looking at my father's broken expression, I knew this was just the beginning of a much longer story. The microphone felt heavy in my hands as I stood up. The reception hall had descended into chaos. Clusters of guests whispering, phones discreetly recording, my father still staring blankly at Alyssa's evidence. Everyone, please, I said into the mic. My voice echoed through the speakers, commanding attention. I have something to say. Craig touched my arm. Martina, "You don't have to do this." "Yes, I do." I squeezed his hand before facing our guests. "For 15 years, I've lived under Linda's shadow, believing I wasn't good enough, that my business wasn't good enough, that I would never measure up to her standards." The room fell silent. Even the waiters stopped clearing plates. "She told everyone I was facing bankruptcy," I continued, my voice growing stronger. "And you know what? My business did struggle this year. We lost a major client. Our equipment needed expensive repairs. That's not failure. That's reality. That's business." Paul nodded slowly from his seat, his earlier suspicion replaced with something like respect. "But while I was fighting to keep my business alive, being honest with my creditors, making payment plans..." I held up my phone, displaying the proof Alyssa had sent me. Linda was losing hundreds of thousands at the Golden Palace Casino. The large screen behind me, meant for wedding photos, suddenly lit up. Alyssa had connected her laptop, projecting the evidence for everyone to see. "March 15th, I read from the statement. $25,000 withdrawn at 2 a.m. March 16th, another $30,000. March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, $65,000. That was the day she told me my business plan was amateur," I added, looking directly at my father. "She said I didn't understand money management." Someone in the crowd let out a bitter laugh. "April 3rd, I continued, $40,000. April 4th, $50,000. April 5th, the day of my final wedding dress fitting, $70,000. She spent more at the blackjack table that night than my entire catering business makes in a month." "Oh my God," Krista whispered, staring at the numbers. "But here's the real kicker." I swiped to another document. "May 21st, Linda took out a third mortgage on our family home. Dad, she forged your signature." My father's head snapped up. "What?" "The bank called me yesterday," Alyssa said, her voice shaking. "They were trying to reach Mom about missed payments. They faxed over the paperwork." The projector displayed the mortgage document, my father's clearly forged signature stark against the white paper. "I've already contacted the police," I said, my heart pounding but my voice steady. "They'll be waiting to speak with her at home." The room erupted in gasps and exclamations. My father buried his face in his hands. "So yes, my business had a rough year," I announced. "Yes, I took out a loan to expand. And yes, I'm proud of every single struggle because I faced them honestly. I didn't steal. I didn't lie. I didn't destroy my family's trust." Craig stood beside me, his arm around my waist. "That's my wife," he said proudly into the mic, drawing scattered applause. "Linda spent years making me feel small," I continued, "making all of us feel small. She criticized my dreams while gambling away our futures. She questioned my integrity while committing fraud." I turned to my father, who looked years older than he had this morning. "Dad, I'm so sorry, but you needed to know." He nodded slowly, tears in his eyes. "I should have seen it." "She fooled everyone," Alyssa said softly. "She was really good at it." The sound of police sirens filtered in from outside. Several guests rushed to the windows, watching as 2 patrol cars pulled up to the venue. "Mrs. Fowler?" A police officer appeared in the doorway. "We received a call about potential fraud charges." "She left," I told them, "but I can tell you exactly where she's going." "The Golden Palace," Alyssa confirmed. "It's where she always goes when she's upset." The officers nodded, speaking quietly into their radios before departing. The room felt electric with tension and unfolding drama. "Well," Paul said, standing up and raising his glass, "I think it's time for a proper toast. To Martina and Craig, who just gave us a wedding reception none of us will ever forget." Laughter rippled through the crowd as glasses were raised. "And to honesty," Krista added, "however ugly it might be." I looked around at the faces of our guests, no longer judging, no longer pitying, but understanding. Even those who had initially believed Linda's accusations about my business now wore expressions of sympathy and support. "The truth really does set you free," I said quietly to Craig. He kissed my forehead. "You were amazing. Scary, but amazing." "Scary good or scary bad?" "Scary perfect," he smiled. "Now, shall we salvage what's left of our wedding reception?" I nodded, finally feeling like I could breathe freely. "Yes. But first, I need to make sure Dad's okay." As I walked toward my father, I realized that while this wasn't the wedding day I'd planned, it was exactly the day I needed, the day we all needed, to finally break free from Linda's web of lies. The week after my wedding felt like walking through a minefield of consequences. I sat in my small office at the catering company, staring at my phone as it buzzed with another news alert. Local real estate mogul arrested for fraud and gambling with client funds. A knock on my door made me jump. "Come in." Alyssa peeked in, looking exhausted. "Dad's asking for you. He's at the house." "How is he?" I hadn't seen him since the wedding night, when he'd retreated into himself after the police took Linda away. "Broken," she said simply. The bank called again. Linda wasn't just gambling with family money, she was using her real estate company's escrow accounts. My stomach dropped. "How much?" $2 million, maybe more. Alyssa collapsed into the chair across from my desk. "The FBI is involved now." I grabbed my keys. "Let's go." The drive to my childhood home felt surreal. Police tape still marked the entrance where they'd executed a search warrant 2 days ago. Inside, we found my father sitting in his study, surrounded by stacks of financial documents. "The house is gone," he said without looking up. "The cars, the vacation property in Sedona, my retirement fund, all gone." "We'll figure it out," I said, kneeling beside his chair. He finally met my eyes. Craig's father called. "They're pulling their investment from my company." "What? But you had nothing to do with—" "Doesn't matter. The scandal's too big. Nobody wants to be associated with the name." He laughed bitterly. 30 years of building a reputation, destroyed in 1 week. "Dad, was I really that blind?" He interrupted. "Did I just not want to see it?" Before I could answer, the doorbell rang. Alyssa went to answer it, returning with Krista. "Sorry to interrupt," she said, "but you need to see this." She held up her tablet, showing a local news website. There was Linda's mugshot, alongside a headline, "Disgraced realtor's stepdaughter orchestrated public humiliation at wedding." "She's giving interviews from jail," Krista explained, "saying you and Alyssa planned this to destroy her reputation because you were jealous of her success." "That's ridiculous," Alyssa protested. "It gets worse." Krista scrolled down. "She's claiming you fabricated the evidence about her gambling to cover up your own financial misdeeds." I felt the room spin slightly. "Who's believing this?" "Some of our biggest corporate clients are getting nervous," Krista admitted. 3 have already called to cancel their contracts. My father stood up suddenly. "This is my fault. If I hadn't brought her into our lives—" "Stop," I said firmly. "You're not responsible for her actions." The doorbell rang again. This time it was Craig, looking worried. "My parents are asking us to move," he said without preamble. "They think staying in Phoenix will hurt my law career." "Because of Linda?" I felt anger rising in my chest. He nodded. "Dad's firm is worried about association. They're offering to transfer me to their Seattle office." "You can't be serious." "I told them no," Craig said quickly. "But things are getting complicated. The media's camped outside our apartment. My clients are asking questions." I looked around at everyone. My father aged beyond his years, Alyssa fighting tears, Krista trying to be strong, Craig caught between loyalty and practicality. "I won't let her win," I said suddenly. "I won't let her turn us into victims." "Martina," my father started, but I cut him off. "No, Dad. She spent years making us doubt ourselves, making us feel small, and now she's trying to do it again, even from jail." I turned to Craig. "I won't run away. This is our home." "The business," Krista began. "We'll survive," I finished. "We'll be transparent with our clients, show them our books, prove we're nothing like her." Alyssa straightened up. "I have all the evidence, everything. We can fight back." "It won't be easy," Craig warned. "The media loves a scandal." "Then we'll give them a different story," I said. "Not about Linda's betrayal, but about how a family stands together, how we rebuild." My father looked at me for a long moment. "When did you get so strong?" "I learned from watching you, Dad, before Linda. When you built your company from nothing, when you taught me about integrity and hard work." I took his hand. "We can do that again." The room fell quiet as everyone absorbed this. Finally, Krista spoke up. "Well, I know where to start," she said, pulling out her phone. "The Memorial Hospital contract. They're wavering, but they haven't canceled yet. Let's call them. Right now. Show them we're not hiding." Craig nodded. "I'll talk to my firm. Make them understand that standing by us is better PR than running away." "And I'll help Dad sort through the financial mess," Alyssa added. "There might be assets Linda couldn't touch." Looking around at my family, both blood and chosen, I felt something shift. Linda had tried to destroy us, but somehow she'd only made us stronger. "Okay," I said, picking up my phone. "Let's get to work." "And that's why you should trust us with your corporate events," I finished, standing before the board of directors at Phoenix Memorial Hospital. "We've been transparent about our challenges, and we're stronger for facing them head-on." The hospital's CEO, Dr. Roberts, leaned forward. "Your stepmother's scandal made headlines, Martina. Our shareholders are nervous." "I understand," I said, pulling out my tablet. "That's why I brought our complete financial records, client testimonials, and a detailed plan for your upcoming charity gala." "The same gala Linda claimed you couldn't afford to cater?" another board member asked. "Yes, and I'd like to show you exactly why she was wrong." For the next 20 minutes, I walked them through everything: our books, our contingency plans, our staff credentials. When I finished, Dr. Roberts smiled. "Well, I must say this is the most thorough presentation we've seen." "Thank you, but no buts," she interrupted. "We're keeping you on. In fact, we'd like to discuss expanding our contract to include the medical conference in September." I practically floated back to my kitchen, where Krista was supervising prep work for a wedding that weekend. "They said yes," I announced, causing several staff members to cheer. "Of course they did," Krista grinned. "You're kind of scary when you're determined." "Speaking of scary," a voice called from the doorway, "you've got another visitor." Craig stood there with his father Paul, who looked distinctly uncomfortable. "Paul," I said, trying to keep my voice neutral, "this is unexpected. Could we talk privately?" I led him to my office, Craig following close behind. Paul paced for a moment before speaking. "I was wrong," he said finally. "About you, about everything." "Dad's been doing some thinking," Craig added softly. "I let Linda's accusations cloud my judgment," Paul continued. "But watching you these past few weeks, how you've handled this situation, how you've protected your family while building your business back up." He cleared his throat. "Well, I'm impressed." "Thank you," I said carefully. But nothing." He pulled out a business card. "My firm hosts monthly partner lunches. We've been using the same caterer for 10 years, but their service has gotten sloppy. I'd like to give you a shot at the contract." My hands shook slightly as I took the card. That's very generous." "It's not generosity, it's business sense. You've proven yourself trustworthy under pressure. That's rare." After Paul left, Craig pulled me into a hug. "See? Things are turning around." "Slowly," I agreed. "But what about your firm? Are they still pressuring you to transfer?" "Actually," he grinned, "they're making me partner. Dad convinced them my family loyalty during the crisis showed good character." The kitchen door burst open and Alyssa rushed in. "Martina, you need to see this." She thrust her phone at me. On the screen was an email from one of Linda's former real estate clients, a major hotel developer. "They want to meet with us," Alyssa explained breathlessly. "They're planning a chain of boutique hotels and need a catering service that can handle multiple locations." "Us?" I looked up, confused. "Well, I might have shown them some of your work, and mentioned that I've been helping with the business side since everything happened." "Alyssa, are you saying you want to work here?" She nodded. "I'm good with numbers. I caught Mom's scheme, didn't I? And you need someone to handle the business side while you focus on the culinary part." "Plus," Craig added, "having a former finance major managing the books will make clients feel extra secure." Before I could respond, my phone rang. It was my father. "Dad, everything okay?" "Better than okay," he said, sounding more energetic than he had in weeks. "Remember that small property I bought in Scottsdale years ago? The one Linda never knew about? The old restaurant space? What about it?" "I just had it appraised. It's worth 3 times what I paid for it. If you're interested, it could make a perfect second location for your catering business." I sat down hard in my office chair. Dad, I can't accept that. You're not accepting anything. I'm investing in my daughter's business. Properly, legally, with real contracts and everything. He paused. Let me do this, Martina. Let me help you build something honest. Looking around my small office, at Craig's proud smile, at Alyssa's hopeful face, at Krista directing staff through the kitchen window, I felt tears well up. Okay, I said, but we do this right. Full partnership agreement, everything in writing. I wouldn't have it any other way, Dad replied, and I could hear him smiling. After hanging up, I turned to Alyssa. So, future business partner, ready to help me crunch some numbers for this hotel chain proposal? She beamed. Already started a spreadsheet. That's my wife, Craig laughed, always landing on her feet. No, I corrected him, pulling out my laptop. That's my family, all of us, landing on our feet together. The county jail's visiting room was colder than I expected. I sat at the metal table, watching Linda approach in her orange jumpsuit, her perfectly maintained appearance now stripped down to basics. No designer clothes, no expensive makeup, no carefully crafted facade. Well, she said, sitting down across from me, come to gloat? No. I placed my hands flat on the table. I came to return something. I pulled out her old business card, the one she'd given me years ago when I first started my catering company. She stared at it, her jaw tightening. You kept this? It was my motivation, I admitted. Every time I doubted myself, I'd look at it and think about proving you wrong. She laughed bitterly. And now you have. Congratulations. I hear your business is thriving. It is. We just signed the hotel chain contract. With my former clients, her eyes flashed. Alyssa told me, my own daughter, stealing my contacts. She didn't steal anything. They came to us because they trust us. Trust, Linda spat the word. Is that why you're here? To lecture me about trust? I leaned forward. I'm here because I need to understand. All those years of criticism, of making me feel worthless. Was it because you saw this coming? Did you know you were gambling everything away? Something flickered across her face. Pain, maybe, or regret. You don't understand addiction, she said quietly. You're right, I don't. But I understand lying. I understand manipulation. I understand making others feel small to make yourself feel big. Is that what you think I was doing? Wasn't you? She was silent for a long moment, staring at her hands. The first time I went to the casino, it was after your father praised your catering at that Christmas party. Everyone was raving about your food, your business sense, your potential. And that bothered you? It terrified me. Her voice cracked slightly. I'd spent so long being the successful one, the one with all the answers. But there you were, building something real, something honest. While I was... She trailed off. While you were losing everything at the blackjack table, I finished. The more I lost, the more I needed to prove I was still in control, still perfect. She looked up at me. And you were an easy target. Because I wanted your approval. Because you reminded me of who I used to be, before the gambling, before the lies. You had dreams, determination, everything I'd lost. A guard approached, signaling 5 minutes remaining. Dad's rebuilding his company, I told her. Smaller scale, but honest work. Alyssa's amazing with the business side of things, and Craig's family. They've come around. How nice for you all. Her voice turned cold again. One big happy family while I rot in here. You did this to yourself, Linda. Every criticism, every lie, every stolen dollar, those were your choices. And exposing me at your wedding? Was that your choice? Or did my darling daughter plan that all along? Alyssa protected you for months. She tried to get you help. You refused. Linda's hands clenched into fists. She betrayed me. You all betrayed me. No, I said firmly. You betrayed us, and now you're trying to blame everyone else because you can't face what you've done. Time's up, the guard called. I stood, gathering my purse. I didn't come here to gloat, Linda. I came to tell you that I forgive you. She looked up sharply. What? Not for my sake, but for mine. I'm done letting your opinion control my life. I'm done trying to prove myself to someone who never wanted to see my worth in the first place. How dare you? Goodbye, Linda. I turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and one more thing. Dad's filing for divorce. The papers should arrive tomorrow. As I walked away, I heard her call after me. You think you're better than me? You think this makes you win? I didn't turn around. Through the heavy door, down the fluorescent-lit hallway, past the security checkpoint, I kept walking. Outside, Craig was waiting in the car. How did it go? He asked as I buckled in. Exactly as expected. I took a deep breath of free air. She's still trying to control the narrative. And you? I'm done with her narrative. It's time to write my own story. He smiled, starting the car. Speaking of stories, wait until you hear what happened at the kitchen today. Your dad stopped by with those investors from Dubai. As Craig filled me in on the latest business developments, I felt the last weight of Linda's influence lift from my shoulders. She would always be part of my history, but she no longer had the power to shape my future. My phone buzzed with a text from Alyssa. Just booked 2 more corporate events. Come celebrate with us. Take me to the kitchen, I told Craig. My family's waiting. He squeezed my hand as we drove away from the jail, leaving Linda and her manipulations behind. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do isn't fighting back. It's simply walking away and building something better. The grand opening banner fluttered in the warm Arizona breeze as I unlocked the doors to our new Scottsdale location. The renovated space gleamed with professional kitchen equipment, elegant dining areas, and a state-of-the-art demonstration kitchen for cooking classes. Ready? Alyssa asked, clipboard in hand. Almost. I adjusted a vase of fresh flowers on the welcome desk. Where's Dad? Parking the car. He's bringing the surprise. Before I could ask what surprise, Krista burst through the door. The hotel chain executives are on their way. Everything ready in the kitchen? Staff's prepped, menus set, and I triple-checked every detail, I assured her. That's my girl. My father appeared, carrying a familiar wooden box. But first, I think we need this. I recognized it immediately. Mom's old recipe box. Dad, you still have that? Found it while cleaning out the house. He set it on the counter. Thought it might belong here now. Craig arrived with his parents in tow. Paul looked around appreciatively. This is impressive, Martina. Very impressive. Thank you. I meant it sincerely. His approval, unlike Linda's, felt genuine and earned. The first guests are arriving, Alyssa called from the door. What followed was a whirlwind of introductions, presentations, and carefully crafted appetizers. I moved through the crowd, discussing menu options with hotel executives, demonstrating techniques in the show kitchen, watching Alyssa confidently handle the business discussions. During a quiet moment, I opened Mom's recipe box. Inside, beneath her handwritten cards, lay a newspaper clipping I'd never seen before. It was an article about her small catering business, dated just before she died. She was so proud of that article, Dad said, appearing beside me. She always said you'd inherit her cooking talent. Why didn't you show me this before? He sighed. Linda, she said it would only encourage unrealistic dreams. I should have stood up to her then. We can't change the past, Dad. No, but we can learn from it. He pulled out an envelope. Which is why I want you to have this. Inside was a deed, the building we were standing in, now officially in my name. Dad, we agreed this would be an investment. And it is. In you. In us. He gestured around the room. Look what you've built, Martina. Not just a business, but a family. A real one. Across the room, Craig was deep in conversation with his father about expanding our corporate client base. Alyssa was charming potential clients with her detailed business projections. Krista was leading a kitchen tour, her pride in our work evident in every word. Speaking of family, Dad continued, there's something else you should know. The DA called this morning. Linda took a plea deal. My hands stilled on Mom's recipe box. How long? 5 years, plus mandatory counseling and restitution payments. He touched my shoulder. Are you okay? Before I could answer, the hotel chain's CEO approached. Martina, this is extraordinary. We'd like to discuss expanding our contract to include all our West Coast properties. As I turned to respond, I caught a glimpse of myself in the polished steel of the kitchen wall, standing tall, confident, no longer seeking approval from shadows. I'd be happy to discuss that, I said. But first, let me show you something special. I pulled out Mom's recipe for her famous orange lavender macarons. This is where it all started. Would you like to see how they're made? For the next hour, I demonstrated the delicate process, sharing stories of Mom's wisdom, of lessons learned, of dreams rebuilt. The executives watched, entranced, as I transformed simple ingredients into something magical. You know, the CEO said, sampling a finished macaron, we've been looking for a signature dessert for our hotels, something unique, with a story behind it. Every great recipe has a story, I replied, thinking of Mom's box, of Dad's support, of the family we'd rebuilt from Linda's ashes. Later, as the successful event wound down, Craig found me in the kitchen. The hotel chain signed the expanded contract, he announced, and Paul's firm wants us to cater their national partners conference. We did it, I said softly. No, he corrected, wrapping his arms around me. You did it, by being exactly who you are. I looked around at our new space, at Mom's recipe box proudly displayed, at Alyssa calculating tomorrow's prep lists, at Dad beaming with genuine pride, at Krista directing cleanup with cheerful efficiency. Ready to lock up? Craig asked. Actually, I said, pulling out Mom's recipe box. I thought we might stay a bit longer. There's this chocolate souffle recipe I've been wanting to try. At this hour? I smiled, remembering Mom's words scribbled in the margins. The best recipes, like the best lives, are made with love, courage, and just a hint of rebellion. Why not? We've got time, family, and a kitchen full of possibilities. Craig grinned, reaching for an apron. Lead the way, chef. And in that moment, surrounded by the people I loved in the space we'd built together, I knew that this was the success Linda could never understand. This was home.
The last person I wanted to see at my father's funeral was my sister, but there she was, perfect as always in her tailored black dress, accepting condolences like a queen holding court. I stood in the corner of the funeral home, clutching my worn leather portfolio like a shield. My name is Amelia, and I've spent my entire life being the Santos sister who never quite measured up. Darling, you made it! My mother's voice carried across the room, drawing unwanted attention. She rushed over, her face pinched with worry. Though really, couldn't you have worn something more appropriate? I glanced down at my black dress. Perfectly funeral appropriate, just not designer like Alicia's. Hi, Mom. Yes, I made it. Amelia. Alicia's voice cut through the murmur of conversations. She glided over, her surgeon's hands clasped elegantly in front of her. I was beginning to wonder if you'd show up at all. Of course I came. He was my father, too. Was he? When was the last time you visited him at the hospital? Her words were razor sharp, meant to draw blood. Too busy with your art? Before I could respond, Knox, Dad's lawyer, appeared at my elbow. Amelia, could I have a moment? She's always had a moment for everyone except family, Alicia announced loudly enough for nearby mourners to hear. Did you know she missed Dad's last birthday because of some gallery showing? My cheeks burned. It wasn't just some showing. It was my first solo exhibition, which sold exactly 0 pieces, if I remember correctly. Alicia's smile was surgical precision. At least when I'm absent, it's because I'm saving lives. Ladies, Knox interrupted. This isn't the time or place. Mom wrung her hands. Alicia's right, though. Your father was so disappointed, Amelia. If you'd just chosen a real career like your sister... The familiar weight of their disappointment pressed down on my shoulders. I watched as Angelo, my childhood friend, approached with concern in his eyes. His wife, Reese, followed close behind. Hey, how about we all take a breath? Angelo suggested, placing himself between me and my sister. "We're here to remember your father." "Oh yes, let's remember him," Alicia continued, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Let's remember how he spent his last years wondering why his younger daughter couldn't be bothered to visit more than twice a year. How he had to explain to his friends why you weren't at family functions, why you couldn't just be normal." "Enough!" Knox's voice was sharp enough to silence the room. "Robert wouldn't have wanted this." I turned to leave, but Alicia grabbed my arm. "Running away again? You're such an embarrassment. You couldn't even dress properly for Dad's funeral." I yanked my arm free. "At least I'm genuine. When was the last time you were real about anything, Alicia?" The room fell silent. Even the funeral director stopped arranging flowers to watch. "Get out," Alicia hissed. "You don't deserve to be here." I looked to my mother for support, but she was already turning away, patting Alicia's arm consolingly. The familiar ache of rejection bloomed in my chest. "Come on," Angela whispered, touching my elbow. "I'll walk you out." As we headed for the door, Knox caught up with us. "Amelia, wait." He pressed an envelope into my hands. "Your father asked me to give you this, privately." I stared at the envelope, thick, cream-colored, with my name written in Dad's shaky handwriting. "What is it?" I asked. Knox glanced over his shoulder at Alicia, who was now surrounded by sympathetic mourners. "Open it when you're alone. And Amelia?" His eyes met mine. "Your father was proud of you, more than you know." I clutched the envelope to my chest, next to my portfolio. Angelo squeezed my shoulder. "Want me to drive you home?" I shook my head. "I need to walk, clear my head." "Call me if you need anything," he said, while Reese nodded encouragingly behind him. Outside, the autumn air was crisp and clean. I could hear the murmur of voices through the funeral home's open windows, Alicia's laugh rising above the rest. My fingers traced the edges of the envelope. Whatever was inside, Dad had wanted me to have it. Not perfect Alicia, not our enabling mother, me. For the first time that day, I felt something other than shame and inadequacy. I felt curious, and maybe, just maybe, a little powerful. I took one last look at the funeral home, at the shadow of my sister moving behind the windows, and started walking. The envelope seemed to pulse with possibility in my hands, like a key waiting to unlock something I never knew I needed. Dad's final message to me. What secrets had he been keeping, and why had he chosen me to receive them? I picked up my pace, eager to get home and find out. My hands trembled as I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the envelope. 3 cups of tea had gone cold, and still, I couldn't bring myself to open it. The sun had set, casting long shadows across my small apartment, when my phone buzzed. "Did you open it yet?" Angelo's voice was gentle but insistent. "No." "Want me to come over?" I hesitated. Yes, no, maybe. "I'll be there in 20 minutes. True to his word, Angelo arrived with a pizza and a determined look. He set it down and pulled up a chair beside me. "Okay, enough stalling. Open it." I carefully broke the seal and pulled out several papers. On top was a handwritten letter. "My dearest Amelia," I read aloud, my voice catching. "If you're reading this, I'm gone, and Knox has fulfilled his promise to deliver this to you, and only you." Angelo leaned forward. "Go on." "There's a key taped to the back of this letter. It opens Safety Deposit Box 247 at First National downtown. What you'll find there will change everything. But before you go, you need to understand why I'm trusting you with this." I flipped the letter over. Sure enough, a small key was secured with clear tape. "Your sister isn't who everyone thinks she is. Neither was I. Make things right, Butterfly." "Butterfly?" Angelo asked. "Dad's nickname for me when I was little, before Alicia became the golden child." I set the letter down. What am I supposed to do with this? Obviously, you need to go to the bank. And walk into whatever mess Dad's dumping on me? No thanks. I've had enough family drama for one lifetime. I pushed the letter away. Angelo grabbed it before it could slide off the table. The man's dead, Amelia. If he wanted you to know something, don't you think you owe it to him to find out what? I owe him? Where was he when Alicia was destroying my art show opening? When Mom was telling everyone I was throwing my life away? Right here. Angelo tapped the letter, planning whatever this is, for you. My phone buzzed again. A text from Mom. Alicia's hosting a family dinner tomorrow. She expects you to attend and apologize for your behavior. I showed Angelo the message. He rolled his eyes. Perfect timing. What are you going to do? The bank opens at 9, I said, surprising myself. Want to come with me? Morning found us standing outside First National, watching employees file in. Angelo squeezed my hand. Ready? The bank manager, a woman named Patricia, led us to the vault area. I'm sorry for your loss, she said, checking my ID. Your father was a valued customer. The safety deposit box was larger than I expected. Patricia left us in a private viewing room, where I inserted the key with shaking hands. Holy shit, Angelo whispered as I lifted the lid. Inside were folders, USB drives, and what looked like medical records. The top folder was labeled Malpractice AS. AS, Angelo said. Alicia Santos? I opened the folder. Photos spilled out. Medical charts, internal hospital memos, and handwritten notes. My stomach churned as I read. This can't be right, I muttered, but each document confirmed the last. Alicia covered up a botched surgery. The patient, oh God, she ended up paralyzed. Ava Weaver, Angelo read over my shoulder. Age 28, routine procedure gone wrong. Dad knew, he knew, and he... I couldn't finish the sentence. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Mom. Alicia's waiting for your response about dinner. Angelo touched my arm. Amelia, you okay? I stared at the evidence in my hands. Perfect Alicia. Successful Alicia. The sister who could do no wrong. What am I supposed to do with this? My voice sounded hollow. Whatever you decide, Angelo said carefully. It needs to be for the right reasons, not revenge. Revenge? I laughed, but it came out more like a sob. Dad didn't give this to me for revenge. He wanted the truth to come out. Maybe, but he also knew it would hurt Alicia and your mom. Are you ready for that? I gathered everything back into the box, except for one folder. I need to think. Want me to drive you home? No. I clutched the folder to my chest. I need to do some research first. Find out who Ava Weaver is. Angelo frowned. Be careful, once you start down this road. I know. I managed a weak smile. But Dad called me Butterfly. Maybe it's time I caused a hurricane. As we left the bank, I texted Mom back. Tell Alicia I'll be at dinner tomorrow. We have a lot to talk about. The folder felt heavy in my bag, like it was made of lead instead of paper. But for the first time since Dad's death, maybe for the first time in years, I felt something else too. Purpose. Finding Ava wasn't hard. Her Instagram profile was filled with before and after photos. Before the surgery, standing on mountain peaks, running marathons. After, confined to a wheelchair, but still smiling in most shots. Her latest post showed her at a physical therapy session, caption reading, Day 847, still fighting. I sat in my car outside her apartment building, gripping the folder. A text from Angelo lit up my phone. Don't do anything stupid. Too late. I buzzed her apartment. Hello? Her voice was warm, curious. Hi, I'm Robert's daughter. Silence. Then, come up. Ava opened her door before I could knock. She wheeled back to let me in, her movements precise and practiced. I wondered if you'd ever find out. You knew my father? He visited me every month for the past year. She gestured to a photo on her wall, her and Dad at what looked like a cafe. He was gathering evidence. I pulled out the folder. About Alicia. Ava's face hardened. About your sister, yes, the brilliant Dr. Santos, who couldn't admit she made a mistake. She wheeled to her kitchen. Want some coffee? This might take a while. Over coffee, Ava told me everything. The routine spinal surgery, the error, the cover-up. She came to see me after, Ava said, hands wrapped around her mug. Offered me money to keep quiet. Said it would be better for everyone. Did you take it? I did. I was scared, in pain, and she made it sound like my only option. Ava's laugh was bitter. Your father found me 6 months later. He'd noticed discrepancies in the hospital records. My phone buzzed. Mom again. Dinner's at 7. Wear something nice. What are you going to do? Ava asked. I showed her the text. Have dinner with my sister, apparently. That's not what I meant. I know. I stood up, gathering the documents. Can I come back? Talk more? Ava nodded. Your father wanted justice, Amelia, not revenge. Remember that. I barely made it home in time to change. My black dress from yesterday wouldn't do. Alicia would see it as another slight. I chose a blue cocktail dress instead, one I'd bought for my gallery opening but never worn. Alicia's house was exactly what you'd expect. Modern, minimalist, perfect, like her. Mom's car was already in the driveway. You came. Alicia opened the door, martini in hand. And you're almost on time. Mom hurried over. Darling, you look presentable. Thanks, Mom. Really feeling the love. Alicia led us to her dining room. I thought we should clear the air after yesterday's unpleasantness. Unpleasantness? I set my bag down carefully, the folder inside feeling like a bomb. Is that what we're calling it? Amelia, Mom warned. No, let her speak. Alicia sipped her martini. I'm sure she has plenty to say about how unfair everything is. I thought of Ava, of her wheelchair, of Dad visiting her month after month. Actually, I wanted to ask you about a patient. Ava Weaver? The martini glass froze halfway to Alicia's lips. What? Ring any bells? Routine spinal surgery? About 2 years ago? Mom looked confused. Alicia, what's she talking about? Nothing. Alicia's voice was sharp. It's nothing. I pulled out the folder. Dad didn't think it was nothing. The color drained from Alicia's face. Where did you get that? Does it matter? What matters is what's inside. I opened it, laid out the photos, the documents. Want to tell Mom about it, or should I? Alicia? Mom picked up a photo. What is this? It's lies. Alicia stood up so fast her chair fell backward. Whatever Dad told you, whatever you think you know, I know you paralyzed a woman and paid her to keep quiet. My voice was steady, calmer than I felt. I know Dad found out and spent the last year of his life gathering evidence. Mom's hands were shaking. Tell me this isn't true. Of course it's not true. Alicia grabbed the folder. This is just Amelia trying to ruin everything, like always. No, I stood up too. This is me finally seeing you clearly, the perfect daughter, the brilliant surgeon. It's all a lie, isn't it? Alicia threw her martini glass. It shattered against the wall behind me, sending gin and glass everywhere. Get out! Gladly. I grabbed my bag. But this isn't over. Is that a threat? I thought of Ava's smile in her Instagram photos, of her determination to keep fighting. No, it's a promise. To Dad, to make things right. I left them there, Alicia screaming, Mom crying, the evidence scattered across the perfect dining room table like shrapnel from an explosion. Outside, I texted Angelo. It's done. No going back now. His response came quickly. You okay? I wasn't, but for the first time in my life, I knew exactly what I had to do. Angelo's backyard was my safe haven growing up, and nothing had changed. I sat on the old swing set while he grilled burgers, Reese bringing out plates and condiments. "You should have seen her face," I said, pushing myself gently back and forth, like her whole world was cracking. "Good," Reese muttered, arranging tomato slices. Angelo flipped a burger. "Maybe not good. Complicated." "How is it complicated?" Reese demanded. "She paralyzed someone and covered it up." "Because," Angelo said, giving me a pointed look, "there's always more to the story." I pulled out my phone, showing them Alicia's latest text. "If you pursue this, I'll destroy you. Remember who Mom believes." "Charming," Reese said. "She's scared," Angelo noted, plating the burgers. "People do desperate things when they're scared." "Like paralyze someone and cover it up?" I couldn't keep the bitterness from my voice. "No, like visiting that someone every month for a year." He sat down across from me. "Your dad, I mean. Why do you think he did that?" I took a bite of my burger to avoid answering, but Angelo waited me out. "Because he wanted justice for Ava," I finally said. "Try again." "Because he wanted to expose Alicia?" "One more time." I set my burger down. "Because he wanted to understand." "Bingo." Angelo leaned forward. "Look, I've known your family since we were kids. Your dad wasn't a vindictive man. If he spent a year gathering evidence, it wasn't just to bring Alicia down." "Then what was it for?" "That's what you need to find out." My phone buzzed again, a text from Knox. "We need to talk. Come to my office tomorrow." "The plot thickens," Reese said, reading over my shoulder. "Knox knows something," I said. "He has to. Dad trusted him with everything." "Including that envelope," Angelo reminded me. "Maybe it's time to ask why." The next morning, Knox's office felt colder than usual. He waited until his secretary brought coffee before speaking. "Your father came to me about Ava's case 18 months ago," he said, sliding a file across his desk. "He wanted legal advice." "About prosecuting Alicia?" "About protecting her." I nearly dropped my coffee. "Protecting her? From what?" Knox opened the file. "From herself, from your mother, from the impossible standards that drove her to cover up a mistake instead of admitting she was human." "That's not an excuse." "No, it's not, but it is context." He pulled out a letter. "Your mother's expectations nearly destroyed both her daughters. One turned to art to escape. The other, well, turned to perfection." I finished. "At any cost." Knox's eyes were sad. "Your father blamed himself. He thought if he'd stood up to your mother sooner, protected you both better." "So what?" I stood up, pacing. "I'm supposed to feel sorry for Alicia now? After everything?" "You're supposed to understand her. That's what your father wanted." Knox handed me the letter. "Read this. It's from him to Alicia. He never sent it." I scanned the pages, my hands shaking. "My dearest Alicia, I watched you become what your mother wanted, but lost who you were meant to be. Every achievement became a prison, every success a new bar to reach. I failed you by staying silent. I failed both my butterflies by letting her clip your wings." He called her butterfly too? My voice cracked. "You both were, before the competition started." Knox took back the letter. "Your father's last wish wasn't about revenge, Amelia. It was about healing." "It's too late for that." "Is it? You have the evidence. You could destroy her career, her reputation, or what? Or you could help her face what she did, help her become human again." Knox smiled slightly. "Your father believed you were the only one strong enough to do it." I sat back down, remembering Alicia's face at dinner, the fear behind her anger. "She threatened me," Of course she did. She's terrified. Question is, what are you going to do about it? My phone lit up. A message from Ava. Heard you confronted your sister. Can we talk? I showed Knox the message. He nodded. Seems like the universe is trying to tell you something. Standing to leave, I asked, why did Dad choose me for this? Because you're the only one who ever dared to be imperfect. Knox's voice was gentle. And sometimes, that's the strongest thing we can be. Outside, I texted Ava back. Yes, but first, I need to understand something. Tell me about my sister. Not the doctor who hurt you, the person she was before. The response came quickly. Come over. Your father told me stories. You should hear them. I took a deep breath, thinking of two little butterflies, wings not yet clipped. Maybe Knox was right. Maybe understanding was the first step toward healing. Or maybe I was about to make the biggest mistake of my life. She used to draw, Ava said, showing me a sketch on her phone. Your father shared this with me. Said Alicia drew it when she was 16. The sketch showed two girls on a swing set. Clearly Alicia and me. The detail was incredible. The joy in our expressions captured perfectly. I had no idea she could draw, I whispered. Your father said she stopped when she started pre-med. Said your mom made her choose. Ava wheeled to her desk, pulling out more photos. He visited me so often, told me so many stories. I think he needed someone to remember who Alicia used to be. Why you? Because I was angry, like you are now. She smiled sadly. He thought if he could help me understand her, maybe I could find peace. Did you? Getting there. Ava handed me a journal. Your father gave me this last month, said if anything happened to him, I should share it with you. The journal was filled with Dad's handwriting, documenting conversations with hospital staff, with Alicia's colleagues, with Mom. A pattern emerged, one of relentless pressure, impossible standards, and a young doctor cracking under the weight of perfection. She was sleep-deprived, I read aloud, working 36-hour shifts. Mom was bragging about it at church. Keep reading. Hospital Review noted concerns about her mental state 3 weeks before my surgery. Administrator overruled because of her perfect record. Mother's influence on the board. My phone buzzed. Alicia calling. I declined it. She's been trying to reach you? Ava asked. Yeah, probably to threaten me more. Or maybe she's scared. Your father said fear was always her biggest motivator. Another buzz. A text this time. Please, we need to talk. Come to the hospital. She's at work, I told Ava. Wants me to meet her. Go. Ava took back the journal. But remember what your father learned. Understanding doesn't mean excusing. The hospital corridors felt sterile and oppressive. I found Alicia in her office, still in scrubs, looking exhausted. You came? She said, surprised. You asked. She closed the door. I performed 3 surgeries today. Perfect outcomes, all of them. Know what I thought about during each one? Ava? Her, every cut, every stitch. Alicia's hands trembled. I haven't made a mistake since her. Not one. Because I can't. Mom's on the board, everyone's watching, expecting perfection. Excellence, she spat the word. Mom's favorite. Excellence isn't optional, Alicia. Excellence is who we are. Who she wanted us to be, I corrected. You escaped. Alicia's laugh was hollow. Chose art, chose freedom. I chose this. You chose to cover up a mistake instead of admitting you're human. I chose to protect everything I'd worked for. She slammed her hand on the desk. Do you know what Mom would have done if what? If you'd shown weakness? Join the club, Alicia. I've been a disappointment since day one. And you're stronger for it. She slumped in her chair. Dad knew. He tried to tell me, tried to help, but I couldn't listen, couldn't risk everything I'd built. Built on what? Lies? Fear? built on excellence. Her voice cracked. Always excellence. My phone buzzed again. Angelo, you okay? I have to go, I said, standing. Wait, Alicia grabbed my arm. What are you going to do? With the evidence? I looked at her. Really looked at her. The perfect surgeon, the golden child, the sister who used to draw. All those versions of her, trapped in a prison of excellence. I don't know yet, I answered honestly, but Dad didn't give me those files for revenge. Then why? Maybe to help you break free, like I did. Her grip tightened. By destroying my career? By facing the truth, starting with Ava. I can't. Fear flashed across her face. Mom would never. Mom's not the one who has to live with it. You are. I gently removed her hand. Think about it, about who you were before excellence became your cage. I left her there, surrounded by her medical degrees and awards, all the trappings of perfection she'd sacrificed everything for. Outside, I texted Angelo, I'm okay, but I think I finally understand what Dad was trying to do. And what's that? I thought of the sketch Ava showed me, of two sisters on a swing set, both still free to fly. Save both his butterflies. I wrote back, not just one. My phone lit up one more time. Alicia again. I found my old sketchbook, the one Mom made me burn. Except, I didn't burn it. Dad helped me hide it. I think I need to show you something. I stared at the message, feeling something shift inside me. Maybe understanding wasn't just the first step toward healing. Maybe it was the first step toward freedom. The sketchbook lay between us on Alicia's kitchen table, its pages yellow with age. Neither of us had touched it yet. Dad kept it in his study, Alicia said, hands wrapped around her third cup of coffee, behind that awful painting Mom gave him. The hunting dogs? I almost smiled. He hated that thing. But Mom loved it, so up it went. Alicia reached for the sketchbook, then pulled back. I can't. Want me to? She nodded. The first sketch was of Mom, younger, laughing, an expression I barely recognized. Next came Dad in his garden, then me as a toddler, sleeping with my stuffed elephant. These are amazing, I whispered. They're nothing, just silly drawings. No, I turned another page. They're everything Mom tried to erase. Alicia flinched. My phone buzzed, a news alert. My heart stopped when I saw the headline, Prestigious Hospital Under Investigation. Anonymous source reveals malpractice cover-up. Alicia, she was already reading it on her own phone, face draining of color. No, no, no. I didn't do this, I said quickly. I swear. Then who? Her phone rang. Mom's name flashed on the screen. Don't answer it. I have to. She picked up. Mom? I could hear Mom's voice, shrill and panicked, through the speaker. Alicia put it on speakerphone. Disgraceful. The board is in emergency session. Tell me you can fix this. Mom, No excuses. You get to that hospital and handle this. Excellence isn't optional, Alicia. It's who we are. Alicia's hand trembled. I reached across the table and pressed the end call button. She's right, Alicia whispered. I have to go. Damage control. No. What? No more damage control. No more cover-ups. I opened my phone, showing her a new message from Ava. It wasn't me, but maybe it's time. She's right, I said. Maybe it's time to be human instead of excellent. Alicia's phone kept buzzing. Mom, the hospital, reporters. She stared at the sketchbook, at a drawing of herself as a teenager, paintbrush in hand, smile unguarded. I can't, she whispered. You can. We can. I pulled out Dad's letter from my bag. Read this. Dad wrote it before he died, but never sent it. She read silently, tears falling onto the paper. Her phone buzzed again. The hospital administrator. What do I do? Her voice was small, like when we were kids, and she'd ask me to check for monsters under her bed. "We go to the hospital, together, and you tell the truth. Mom will never forgive me. Maybe, but you might finally forgive yourself." The hospital was swarming with reporters. We slipped in through a side entrance, but news had already spread. Staff members stared, whispered behind their hands. The boardroom was packed. Administrators, lawyers, Mom sitting front and center, face like thunder. "Alicia, thank God. Tell them it's all lies. Show them your records, your perfect record." "No, Mom." Alicia's voice was steady. "No more lies." She walked to the front of the room. I stood beside her, hand on her shoulder. 2 years ago, I made a mistake during surgery. I was exhausted, overworked, trying to maintain impossible standards. She looked directly at Mom. I was afraid to admit I wasn't perfect, so I covered it up, and a woman named Ava paid the price. "Stop talking," Mom hissed. "Right now." "The truth is," Alicia continued, "I'm not excellent. I'm human, and humans make mistakes." The room erupted in chaos. Mom stormed out. Lawyers huddled in corners. My phone buzzed with a text from Knox. "Your father would be proud. Both of you." Hours later, after statements and meetings and preliminary agreements, we sat in Alicia's office one last time. She was packing her degrees into a box. "Suspended pending investigation," she said. "Could lose my license. Or you could get help. Prove you've changed." I picked up her old sketchbook. "Maybe find other parts of yourself again. Like drawing? Like being human." Her phone lit up, Ava's number. We both stared at it. "Answer it," I said. "It's time." Alicia took a deep breath and picked up. "Hello, Ava. Yes. I think we should meet. I have a lot to say, and even more to apologize for." When she hung up, something had changed in her face, like a weight had lifted, replaced by something else, something real. "What now?" she asked. "Now?" I opened the sketchbook to a blank page, pulled out a pencil from her desk. "Now you start drawing again, start living again, start being yourself again. And Mom? Mom can learn to love an imperfect daughter. She's had practice with me." Alicia actually laughed, a real laugh, like in Dad's old photos. She took the pencil and for the first time in 20 years, began to draw. The cafe was Ava's choice, neutral ground, she'd said. Alicia sat across from her, hands wrapped around an untouched coffee. I sat between them, feeling like a mediator at a peace treaty. "I've imagined this moment so many times," Ava said. "What I'd say, what I'd do. But now?" She gestured to the sketchbook on the table. "Your father showed me your art, said it was who you really were." "I'm not that person anymore," Alicia whispered. "No, you're not. You're the doctor who paralyzed me, and the woman who tried to buy my silence. And now?" Ava leaned forward. "Now, who are you?" "I don't know. Not good enough." Ava's voice was steel. "I spent 2 years learning who I am without the use of my legs. You can spend 5 minutes being honest about who you are without your perfect facade." My phone buzzed. Mom again. I'd been ignoring her calls since the hospital. "She won't stop," Alicia said, noticing. "She's been calling me too. Showed up at my house last night." "What did she want?" I asked. "To tell me how I've ruined everything, how I've destroyed our family's reputation." Alicia's laugh was bitter. "She brought a PR team." "Of course she did," I turned to Ava. "Our mother, she's part of why this happened. Not an excuse, but—" "I know." Ava pulled out her phone, showed us a video. Mom at a charity gala, speaking about excellence, about her perfect daughter, the surgeon. "Your father showed me these too. Said I needed to understand the whole story." "Dad showed you a lot," Alicia said. "He visited me every month, not just to gather evidence, but to help me heal, to help me understand." Ava put her phone away. He wanted me to forgive you. I don't deserve forgiveness. No, you don't. But I deserve peace. And maybe, Ava took a deep breath. Maybe that starts with understanding each other. The cafe door chimed. Mom walked in, spotted us, and froze. Oh, God, Alicia muttered. Mom approached our table, her heels clicking like warning shots. What is this? Alicia, the lawyer said no contact with— Sit down, Mom, I said. I will not. This is completely inappropriate. The liability— Sit down. Alicia's voice was quiet but firm. Meet Ava. Really meet her. Mom looked at Ava like she was a bomb about to explode, but slowly she sat. Mrs. Douglas, Ava said coolly, your husband told me so much about you. Robert? What do you mean he? He visited me, showed me videos of you pushing Alicia to be perfect, showed me what that pressure did to her. Ava's eyes were sharp, showed me how it broke both your daughters in different ways. I never broke them. I made them strong. You made me afraid, Alicia cut in, afraid to be human, afraid to make mistakes, so afraid that when I did make one, I destroyed someone's life trying to hide it. And you made me feel worthless, I added, because I couldn't be your version of perfect. Mom's hands trembled. Everything I did was for you both. No. Alicia opened her sketchbook, showed Mom the old drawings. Everything you did was for you, for your reputation, your excellence. Look at them, Ava said quietly. Really look at your daughters, one hiding her true self until she broke, one forced to run away to find herself. Is that excellence? Mom stared at the sketches, moments of joy, of creativity, of imperfect beauty captured in pencil strokes. I didn't. She touched a drawing of us as children, all three of us in Dad's garden. I never meant to. We know, I said, but meaning to hurt someone and doing it anyway. That's something we all need to face. Alicia turned to Ava. I can't undo what I did, but I can stop hiding from it, stop pretending to be perfect. Good, Ava said, because I'm filing a formal complaint with the medical board, not for revenge, but because it's right, because other patients deserve to know the truth. I understand, Alicia whispered, and I'm testifying about the culture at the hospital, Ava continued, about the pressure, the cover-ups, the board's role. She looked at Mom. All of it. Mom stood up so fast her chair scraped back. I need to go. Running away won't fix this, I said. No. Mom straightened her jacket. But maybe I need to learn how to be imperfect too. After she left, Ava reached across the table and took Alicia's hand. Your father believed in second chances, not because we deserve them, but because we need them to become better. Alicia squeezed her hand, tears falling onto the sketchbook. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Ava released her hand. This is just the beginning. The hard part comes next. What's that? I asked. Learning to live with who we really are, Ava said. All of us. Ready? Angelo asked, helping me hang the last piece. The gallery walls were lined with artwork, my paintings interspersed with Alicia's sketches. In the center, a collaborative piece we'd created together, 2 butterflies emerging from their chrysalises, wings still wet but unfurling. Not really, I admitted, but that's okay. The medical board had suspended Alicia's license for 2 years, mandating therapy and supervision before she could practice again. She'd started volunteering at Ava's physical therapy center, not as a doctor, but as an art therapy assistant. The door chimed. Mom walked in, looking smaller somehow, without her usual armor of perfectionism. It's beautiful, she said, studying the butterfly piece. Both of you together. That was Dad's dream, I said, us working together instead of against each other. More people arrived: Knox, Reese, hospital staff, local artists, and Ava, wheeling in with a bright smile and a portfolio of her own photographs. "Where's Alicia?" Mom asked. "Here." My sister hurried in, carrying a wrapped canvas. "Sorry, last-minute changes." She set up the canvas on an easel, hands shaking slightly as she unveiled it. The painting showed 3 women, Mom, Alicia, and me, but not in our usual roles. Instead, we were in Dad's garden, dirt on our knees, laughing as we planted flowers. "It's not perfect," Alicia said. "The proportions are a bit off, and the lighting—" "It's real," Mom interrupted, touching the canvas gently. "That's better than perfect." Knox clinked his glass for attention. "If I could say a few words?" Robert left me a letter to read at this moment. The room quieted. I grabbed Alicia's hand. "My dearest daughters," Knox read, "if you're hearing this, you've finally found your way back to each other, not through excellence or perfection, but through truth and acceptance. My butterflies, free at last to spread your wings. And Linda?" Knox looked at Mom. "My love, free at last from the cage of expectations you built around our family. This gallery showing isn't just art, it's liberation, for all of you." Ava wheeled forward. "Speaking of liberation," she handed Alicia an envelope. "The board reviewed your case, given your honesty, the changes at the hospital, and your work at the therapy center." Alicia opened it with trembling fingers. "They're reducing the suspension? 6 months instead of 2 years? With conditions," Ava said, "including continuing your art therapy program. It's helping people, Alicia, not through perfect surgery, but through healing of a different kind." I watched Mom approach one of my paintings, an abstract piece expressing years of feeling inadequate. She stood there for a long time. "I did this," she finally said, "created so much pain trying to prevent it." "We all did," Alicia said, "but we're learning, growing." "Together," I added. The gallery filled with visitors. I watched Alicia proudly explaining her sketches, saw Mom actually listening to people's interpretations without trying to control the narrative. Even Knox seemed lighter, as if Dad's final mission was complete. "Hey!" Angelo appeared at my elbow. "Look who's here." In the doorway stood a group of Ava's physical therapy patients, including several who joined the art therapy program. They carried a large card signed by everyone at the center. "Your father would be proud," Knox said, joining us. "Not because you're perfect, but because you're authentically you." "Both of you," Mom added softly. Alicia and I exchanged glances. The butterfly piece between us caught the gallery lights, making the wings seem to shimmer with possibility. "I have something to show you," Alicia said. She led us to a small room off the main gallery. The walls were covered with new sketches, scenes from the therapy center, patients finding strength through art, moments of triumph and frustration captured in honest detail. In the center, a portrait of Dad in his garden, surrounded by butterflies. "He always believed in second chances," Alicia said, "in becoming who we're meant to be, not who we're told to be." "And who are you meant to be?" Ava asked from the doorway. Alicia looked at her sketches, at the healing they represented. "Someone who helps people heal. Through medicine when I can, through art when I can't, through truth always." "And you?" Mom turned to me. "Someone who shows others it's okay to be imperfect. That beauty exists in the flaws." The gallery buzzed with life and conversation. Through the windows, I could see Dad's garden at home, the flowers he planted still blooming despite everything. "To Dad," I said, raising my glass, "who gave us the greatest gift." "The courage to be imperfect," Alicia finished. "The wisdom to be real," Mom added. "The freedom to fly," Ava concluded. Outside, butterflies danced through Dad's garden, their wings catching the light. Not perfect, but beautiful. just like us, just like he always knew we could be.